everyone, and welcome to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Andy McNamara. Here we are, I believe, week 4 in quarantine, doing the podcast from our homes. That's nuts to me. And by the way, I could be getting that answer wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's week 4. But I have lost all spatial awareness in a lot of ways. Which is just the fact of the matter. But thank you for listening and watching the show. Welcome back, I hope. And if you're new, please follow us and all those fun things, because we think we put on a pretty good show. But we'll try to disprove that today by making a truly awful show with my stars. Dan, the Jacket Tack. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. We're gonna have a great show today, and thank you for being here.
I mean, the jacket has been your signature, but look at if you could see Joe's face when he saw the hat you're wearing today. You're like jacket, trucker hat, cat ear Dan now.
You know, we're getting a little crazy. We're getting a little wild. Yeah. 4 weeks isolation will do that to anybody.
Yeah, true enough. Good excuse, Dan. I like it. And it's a statement. Certainly. Everyone will remember. Juba, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Wow.
There it is. I've been one-upped.
Oh, no.
Joe has now donned a hat that says Joe on it, and it looks like it is by a graffiti artist, actually. It's kind of a cool hat.
I think this is the kind of hat that you get at, like, Valley Fair, where they, like, airbrush it for you or something.
Yeah.
I mean, do you not know where it comes from?
I got it as a gift for my bachelor party.
Ah.
Wow.
Did you wear it during your bachelor party?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's a very cool hat.
It's a hat.
Is the bottom of the E, is that the point, the exclamation point too? Is that what feeding into that? Oh no, it's just one E. Oh.
Yeah, man.
It's just stylized.
Oh man.
It's a look. Wait, you're not going to wear it the whole show?
I gotta wear it now.
All right.
Beautiful. I think it'll obscure me too much. You have to see what I got to offer here, my glorious face.
Yes, it was Joe has a beard, and so does Alex. How are you doing, Alex?
Hello.
Alex Stadnick.
I guess I can do this. Like I don't know. Like
yeah.
I'm good. I'm letting the apocalypse beard go, seeing how long it's gonna get. We'll see.
I like too that your hair seems very well maintained as well. You've got it's shooting straight up very well.
Yeah. If we have another month of this though, it's gonna get wild. Like it's gonna just keep going up and up and then curl out. I'm not looking forward to it. I may have to shave my head. We'll see.
Do it.
At that point, you can go full Dragon Ball Z, or maybe just get out the shavers and go Tiger King. Yeah. Let's get a mullet going.
There we go. I'd have to color it, but we could do that. Yeah.
I think you could do that. For me, I shaved my beard this week, so that's what you're getting this week. It's kind of weird, throwing me off. I'm gonna grow it back, but I gave it a shot. Whatever. We're in quarantine. The times are weird. I'm sure we've all done things we regret during this period.
So that's the weekly GI grooming update.
Yes, I know. Everyone's dying for. All right. So on this week's show, we are going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. We are going to talk about Valorant. We are going to talk about some news that's happened. And then we are going to get into the later half of the show where we discuss community emails. A lot of great responses this week. Thank you as always. We've got a great GI Town, I think, this week, and a lot of great GI Town entries. Thank you so much for that. And then finally, we've got some Kiss, Marry, Kill that I think is interesting. And we'll go through some comments there at the end. So we've got a show. I think we can do this in a somewhat reasonable time frame, but I make zero promises. So let's start off with Joe Juba. You basically, the second you got your code for Final Fantasy VII, you started dodging work like nobody's business.
Hey, that was work.
I know it was work, but you were ready. You were ready. You had been waiting. You were like, my code is here. Bye, everybody. You can't reach me. Bye.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you were excited about it. The review is up.
It is, yes,
on the site. So, but first, tell us about your journey and your excitement for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah. So this is a game. I mean, to go way back, man. I don't know. Was it E3 2005 that Square Enix showed a technical demo for the PlayStation 3 that was just that early scene of like Cloud going to the reactor in Midgar and like jumping off the train. and people flipped out thinking that they were like actually announcing a remake. And so that sort of started the legend of this game. It really like got people talking about how cool it would be if they ever did a remake. And then it wasn't until 10 years later at E3 2015 that they finally said, like, yes, it's happening. Then
they got the game out right after that.
Yeah, exactly. 5 years ago. Then between then and now, they announced that it's actually a multi-part series. So it's not all of Final Fantasy VII in one game. So the game that comes out this week that I reviewed only covers the section of the original that goes through the city of Midgar, which is that opening city that takes, I say it's like around 6 to 8 hours into the game.
In the original game.
In the original game, it takes about that long. And in this game, it has been fully expanded to a full-length game. I'm seeing some reviewers say that it took them about 35 hours. For me, it was 50. But okay. I was pretty meticulous when it comes to like exploring the map and doing all of the like optional mini games and stuff like that. Or maybe they were too, and I'm just slow. But that's what it was for me.
You'd waited that long, Joe. You might as well enjoy it.
I'm going to savor it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what it is at the basic level is you take that story that happened, the major story beats of Midgar in the original Final Fantasy VII.
And sorry to interrupt you for just one moment. And you would recommend that people replay, if they can, that opening sequence because you felt it helped highlight references, correct?
Yeah. So what the new game does is take those basic plot points and fill in some of the gaps. And in some areas, some of the stuff that's added feels a little unnecessary, but I would say like 80% of the new stuff is like feels more like it's enriching and expanding rather than, extending.
Yeah.
So if you have that original stuff fresh in your mind, those original plot points, I thought it really enhanced my experience having that stuff, like having recently played it and being able to sort of compare back and forth, because it's more than just like, oh, I remember that in some cases. And again, these are a little spoilery that I don't want to get too deep into, but I mean, there's some, Alex knows which one I'm talking about. He's played it too. It's like, there's one random enemy in that game that's really weird. And when I got through the segment that it normally appears in, I'm like, yeah, I guess I can understand why they didn't put that enemy in the game. It was really weird. And then they bring it back in a totally awesome way just a little later in the story. Oh,
that's cool.
So moments like that pay off in just really fun ways.
That's great. Now, so one of the things I've heard you talking about in many times, and by the way, I think we've been discussing this maybe over even the last 5 years, which is are we only getting, and this is my own thing, has been like, I don't want to just play part one and not have a finished game that like I feel good about, that like I beat, that I'm gonna like finish it and be like, okay, now I've got to wait 10 more years. I've made the joke that when I'm 70, I'll finally finish Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I know this is something that you've discussed a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about how you feel about this game as a standalone product and where it's going forward, and explain that a little bit for everyone that's listening?
Yeah, well, if you don't want to listen to me talk about it, there's going to be a story on the site that runs through some of this a little bit too. But like in short, I think there's sort of a misconception out there, because when the game was announced, or later in the year that it was announced, Square said this is a multi-part series, which in 2015 really had people connect it to, I would say, like episodic games, like Telltale games and things like that. So since then, that sort of seed has grown into what I feel like is a larger misconception that this game is somehow incomplete, or that you're paying full price for not a full game. And, like I said, this game took me a long time to finish. It doesn't sacrifice anything in terms of the depth of the content, in terms of the fun of the systems, in terms of there's post-game stuff you can go after. It's it is a full RPG. In my mind, the clearer analogy is, and this was even clear before release, but I think now that the game is, now that I've played it, it bears out that the closer analogy is like the Final Fantasy 13 games.
Gotcha.
How each one of those is by itself a full game, even though the story they tell is a, connected story with, connected characters and arcs that go throughout. It is a full game by itself that, you have to, I have to acknowledge that, yes, there is more to the story. It doesn't tell the whole story of the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, it's not the full thing, but then neither is, like, you wouldn't say like, well, Star Wars isn't a full movie because it doesn't tell the full story of Star Wars, or the Fellowship of the Ring is not a full book because there's more to it, know? Sure. So that's sort of my take on the scope of it. It feels like it is a full-blown RPG that is just the first installment of a larger story.
And my understanding too is that they took some real chances here, that they took things you knew or spoilers from the original game, let's say, and we're not going to cover those here, but that they tried to expand into new territory to make the game kind of its own, to stand on its own feet.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I and a lot of other fans were skeptical about with it, was the idea that taking these sort of time-honored characters and moments and turning them into something else. And I think that's probably the most pleasant surprise for me about the game, is how well those things are handled, how much extra sort of insight into the world it gives when you spend more time with, like, for example, there are some characters that you meet early on in the original game. They're like the other members of the group Avalanche.
Yeah.
So we've seen them in trailers. That's Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. And they're characters in the original, but they're minor. And in this, I really like how this game gives them clearer personalities, gives you more time to spend with them, and like gives you more sense of like them and their place in the world, rather than like, these are some characters you can talk to a couple times,
That's cool.
So things like that, I think, are a good example of the way the game plays off, like takes what fans know about the original and put a twist or expansion on it in a way that is satisfying.
Yeah. Alex, you haven't finished the game yet, but do you echo Joe's sentiment there?
So I come at this a little differently, just because this is my first time experiencing these characters outside of something like Kingdom Hearts. And I love the interaction with some of those side characters, like we talked about, to the point where it's like, I'm shocked that they gave that much tender love and care to them after hearing that they were almost just like small parts to it. Wait a second.
Do you mean you have not played the original 7?
No, this is my first entry into this. This is one of the...
all right.
A
clean run.
Yeah. Other than playing part of FF6 when I got my Super Nintendo Classic, this is my first real entry into the Final Fantasy series. And I'm curious about... I've been weighing that dynamic in my head, because I've loved learning about these characters fresh like this, you know what I mean? I know some of the twists just from inherently paying attention to the industry, but like, this is a new story for me, and I value that. And it is I feel like it's a very timely story. It's so hopeful in a world that doesn't seem to have a ton of hope. And it's goofy at times, but like, it's just so kind of refreshing in a way that once I put aside like my story cynicism, you know what I mean? Like it took me in a way that I wasn't expecting, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, which I didn't expect.
I like this approach from Alex too, because like as I was playing it for review, there's some part of me that's like, I can't remove my nostalgia. I can't go in there and surgically cut away my previous experience with the game. So I knew that I was loving it. Mm-hmm. Then I was like, I wonder if this is comprehensible to someone who like doesn't have those touchstones to go off of first. And so it's like I've enjoyed hearing Alex's experience with it also, because it's sort of like, oh, good. I'm glad that this is accessible also.
Yeah, I definitely heard a lot of people going in saying like this was going to be my first time with Final Fantasy VII, and I'm excited about that. I mean, I think there's a lot of people doing what Alex is doing here. Mm-hmm. Did that come with expectations? So, do you know what I mean? Did it hold like because it is kind of a revered game? Mm-hmm. Were there times when that was disappointing, or were there times when you just like it didn't matter? It was just a fun game.
Yeah, I think it could have been if the execution wasn't so strong.
Okay.
But I think because this is, for the most part, very polished, there's some audio production stuff that doesn't always hit, which Square Enix games seem to do a decent amount, but that's fine. There's a level of polish and love in this game that I feel like not as many games get, which has been a really amazing thing. And we can talk about combat in a second, but not to take shots, but this kind of feels like the Kingdom Hearts game I didn't get with 3, because I wanted to love 3. I've been a fan of that series. But it's just hitting the right notes for me. And I don't know if it's time and place. But like, because I had always heard how amazing Tifa was and Aerith was. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sure they're great. But actually like getting to finally experience them in this way, like I am so like Aerith is just, like I said, a breath of fresh air, and she's hopeful and she's super positive, but in a way that they ground, I feel like, with her kind of background, at least in the beginning. I don't know, like I said, I haven't finished it, so I don't know where else that train goes. But even Tifa and like Barrett, you know what I mean, we see him in the demo and he's yelling and stuff like that, but like they do smart story things with this that balance out that just super high octane positivity that I'm like, okay, this is still kind of goofy, but it's hitting all the right notes to me, and now I see why these characters are so loved and revered. I don't, especially in the beginning, I didn't love Cloud. I said it on our NGT. I think he is kind of...
Okay, we're done talking to you now.
Yeah,
okay,
I'll throw it out there. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
He just seemed very one note to start, and I think that's on purpose, because they're slowly bringing him out of his shell, which I've been enjoying. But without the strength of those side characters, to me, he wouldn't be as tolerable.
Yeah, it's a good ensemble. I mean, it's one of the first, I think, really powerful ensembles in games, by the way, like where you look at a whole team and you know a lot about a lot of the team members and their own story arcs, certainly. Yeah. So combat is a thing. We should discuss combat, I think. But do you have a comment?
I just want to say I am really looking forward to talking to Alex about the ending, because this combines what Alex and Andy, what you were both talking about a little bit before. Because Andy, you asked like what kind of changes or surprises there are to it, and like without going into any spoilers again, the end, if you think you know what's coming with the ending because you've played the original, there are surprises there for you.
Cute Judas Priest, and you got another thing coming, is what you're saying?
Yeah. So and what I'm curious about for Alex is whether or not what happens at the ending makes any sense at all.
Okay.
So
I like that Dan is shaking his head, which I'm with Dan a little bit. Like, great, more cryptic stuff from Square. Wow, we never get enough of that.
I'm very curious about how they move forward with future installments, which they haven't even said how many games this is going to be yet or anything. So, wow. So we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how it goes. Just because, too, like, maybe there aren't any more. Ever think of that? Maybe it's just the one.
It could be.
Oh man.
Anyway. But you wanted to talk about combat. Andy, sorry.
Yeah, I did. Could you tell us a little bit about the combat? I know that you seem to be positive on it. It's actually a lot more action-based now than the original. But I know you did have some hang-ups along the way as well.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I really like the way the combat blends a sense of like strategy and style. It's a little bit like it looks like Devil May Cry almost, or Bayonetta or something like that. It's got like a stylish action flair to it. I think the team was trying to capture the essence of combat that they had in like the movie Advent Children.
Yeah.
That
everyone loves. Yeah.
I love it. But to sort of get that little more like cinematic feel to the combat, and not just enemies, heroes, attack, back and forth. But I think they also do a good job implementing the sort of strategic management of it. And it seems like it feels to me like a combination of things that they've done in previous Final Fantasy combat systems. So it's not 100% new. It's got that stylish flair, but it feels a little bit like a hybrid between something like Final Fantasy 12 or 13, where a lot of the action is can happen without your direct input, and you're making your biggest impact is happening by how and when you choose to use certain abilities. These are the things that you select from a menu. Like, hey, I'm going to spend some of my energy and use the move braver, or you can hear my dogs in the background there. Yeah.
He was backing you up on the comment. He was like, "Yeah, you tell him."
Yeah. But you can control your characters directly. You attack with them directly, so that you feel involved. It's not like you're just sitting back and watching the action happen, unless you have it set on that specific difficulty that lets you do that.
So let me simplify a little bit. Would you say it's adequate? Would you say it's a highlight? Would you say it's a detriment to the game?
I would say 90% of the time it's a highlight. The problem is that other 10%, and I know Alex has run into some of this too, where there are certain fights where it just asks more of you than it can give. And so it's things where just like tons of things are happening on screen at once. So it's hard to see if there's an enemy that's off screen that's about to launch an attack at you, or an enemy that's changing its weakness, but you can't really see if it's now weak to fire instead of ice, or sometimes it's just being poorly communicated when and how you are able to do damage to certain enemies.
Gotcha.
Again, there are only a handful of times that this was a big problem, but the other issue is most often when it's a problem, it's during big pivotal boss fights and stuff. So it really kind of has a tendency to sour those moments a bit. Moments like fights that you should be that should be really intense and exciting and should have you sort of immersed and along for the ride. Instead, they can pull you out because they feel unfair rather than just challenging.
Yeah, throw the controller computer sheets.
I messaged Joe on Slack when I hit one of those battles. I was like, am I bad? I could just be bad. Joe was like, nah, they didn't tell you enough in that. I was like, okay, because I was on this boss for far too long. But yeah, there's a lot that they don't tell you at times, and that can be frustrating.
But also on the plus side in that case is you can bump the difficulty down. There is, like I said, there is a classic difficulty where the characters move, block, evade, attack on their own. And the only thing you're doing is specifically just saying when you use certain moves.
Okay.
The game is really easy when you do that, and I guarantee you will be able to beat basically any boss like that.
Essentially story mode.
Yeah, so you can at least see the story that way. Okay. But I wouldn't recommend a whole playthrough on that unless you're just uninterested in the combat at all. Because you just don't see, like I said, for me, it's a highlight of the game. I like the stylish combat. I like the mixture of strategy, issuing commands to your other characters and having them, exploit weak points or, drive up the stagger gauge or things like that. I like doing that most of the time. So I think you're kind of robbing yourself if you don't at least give that a shot.
Yeah.
And
you can go.
Sorry.
No, I was saying you can go back. You could turn it to easy to get through one of those stupid bosses and then go back up.
Yep. You can go. Yep. The only time you can't do that is after you beat the game, you unlock a hard mode.
Ah, gotcha.
So sort of like once you start a chapter on hard mode, you're stuck on hard mode for that chapter unless you just quit out. But I mean, you've already beaten the game and you were deliberately playing on hard mode. So that's kind of what you signed up for.
Yeah, that's the point.
And I just want to reemphasize Joe's point of 10%. Like, it is very few and far between that those kind of fights happen that make you want to throw a controller, but that's why they're so much more noticeable, is because the rest of the game has a nice flow to it that when it hits, it's like, oh, like, did I change the difficulty by myself? You know? And it's not necessarily that I died on that specific fight. It's just that it took forever and I just didn't know why. So
yeah, though it also has a sort of old school element to it that you should not be like, don't feel like you're bad or if you run into it, which is there are some situations that call for a very specific kind of loadout, right? Like this is an enemy that is weak to fire. And if you do not have at least one party member, but ideally more, outfitted with fire materia, you just aren't going to be able to like really do that fight successfully. Yeah. And you won't know that until you are in the fight. So you may have to like press start, go, like there's an option that's just like retry from the last battle. So you select that, it puts you before you got into the fight you're just in. It gives you time to go back in there and sort of reconfigure your materia setup and then go back into the fight.
No, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yes, but I mean, there's something. What it reminds me of is like the original
games.
Yeah, the original ones where it's like you're at a boss and you're like, how do I beat this boss? Oh, I guess I need to do something different. You reload your game, you go back to your last save point, you try something different. I mean, like to me, that is an acceptable and sometimes even enjoyable compromise between the idea of like a game being unforgiving and difficult and a game that, you know, like doesn't let you lose.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, that's a major ode to what was a major part of Final Fantasy, right? I mean, like, you know, stacking particular types was always a way you got through some of the harder things in those games.
Yeah, I think so. So I appreciated that nod. That element of it didn't bother me. What bothered me is when I felt like I didn't have the information I needed to work with to formulate a successful strategy.
Definitely. So what'd you give it? You gave it a 4 out of 10? 4 out of 10?
I gave it an 8.75. And it's hard. I mean, like I can't assign specific number deductions to different things. But for me, like I really liked the combat. I really liked the characters. I really liked the way it expands the world. In my mind, the things that drag it down the most are those exceptions in the combat system where like important moments just feel bad.
Yeah.
Which isn't good. And then the overall story, which I alluded to, there's some stuff in the ending that disappointed me. And then also just by nature of the chunk of the game that they chose, I don't know that it doesn't feel necessarily like too padded out, but you don't get a great sense of the end game. Like, what do the good guys want? What do the bad guys want? Who's the antagonist? What's the conflict? A lot of what happens is sort of reactive. Like, oh, well, we just finished this thing. What's next? I don't know. Oh, our friend got kidnapped. Well, we have to go save our friend, I guess. You know? Which is true to the way that story originally was structured, except originally that took 6 hours and not 50 hours. So it feels like in that sense, the carrot on a stick in front of you narratively isn't always super tempting, but the stuff that you're doing around it is still like makes up for it a lot. The gameplay itself is fun. The world is great. The characters are great. So
yeah. So, I mean, that's a solid score. Definitely. I mean, anyone who says an 8.75 is a bad score is crazy. That is a very good score for a game. And obviously, I know you said you were disappointed in some things, but I mean, I can tell from your enthusiasm here, you loved having the experience and getting a chance to revisit Final Fantasy like 100%.
Before we started this recording, I was playing a chapter on hard mode. Like, it's nice. I'm still playing it. I'm still enjoying it. Yeah.
That's great. That's really cool. Well, I'm glad. I'm excited for all the Final Fantasy VII fans and for people like Alex that have never played it before. I think that's such a cool thing and a great way to experience something. And maybe when you're done, you can go back and play the old one and see where that takes you as well.
I need to talk to series vets and see, because like I said, I'm enjoying the surprises as I'm playing it. So I need to see how to balance that. But yeah, if you're if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, I think this is a great one to jump into. I haven't been too lost story-wise. The combat feels great for the most part. And to Joe's point, use the assess materia. to figure out the bosses and just have fun with it and turn your over analytical brain off, because some of these characters are goofs, but I think we need some goofs in this point in life. So
goofs, huh?
Yeah.
The original one. Yeah. By the way, if you go back and replay that Midgar section, this game has a pervasive goofiness that people, I think, forget about.
Yeah.
And I think the remake also like incorporates that in fun ways.
Yeah.
So. Well, I think you're going to have a lot of time to decide whether you want to play the old one or not before the next one, because I think there's going to be a lot of time. And we were just making the joke earlier. What do you even call it? They didn't call this one part 1. They didn't call anything. So it's like Final Fantasy Remake.
It's got to be just part 2, right?
Extended? Yeah. I don't know what they do. It's going to be weird.
It wasn't called The Last of Us Chapter 1 or Part 1, right?
Okay, fair enough. So you think it's going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2?
I don't know what I think.
Definitely a Square title right there.
Yeah.
Part 2.5 Rebirth.
Yeah, exactly.
Dream drop distance.
They're never so straightforward as just let's put a number on it. It's gonna.
Fair enough. Yeah, they need 3 or 4 words that make no sense that go on the end there. All right. So another big thing happening in games this week, actually a huge thing. It's been kind of amazing to watch, which was yesterday. Valorant began its beta, and I'm going to go through some quick highlights for you. It had, at one point I saw yesterday, it had 1.7 million viewers on Twitch. Summit1G ended up being, I think, the most watched streamer on it. He had over 310,000 people watching him play Valorant at one point last night.
I have a question about this though. So
there is some data. They were dropping beta keys to people that were watching.
That's what I was wondering, because I see people talking about how high the numbers are for streaming that, but to some degree, a lot of that was like people just trying to get the game for themselves, right?
Correct. I saw someone say they had like 25 streams open trying to like, you know what I mean? Like
that
trying to up their odds.
Chances, but making new accounts will. So I know some people made like 5 different accounts to go watch different streams and try to get keys that way.
So they could be inflated numbers, but I do think the thing is here, it's an interesting, I mean, I think you have to look at it like as a point of view for marketing, like from Riot, and I'm just looking at it as a business point here, pretty smart of them to do things this way. It got people engaged. It got people to look at the game. It's clever. I mean, it was funny. People were like, I will give you cash now I mean, like that's the kind of talk that was going on in the chat. I think it did get a lot of people to kind of ask questions and try to understand the game. I watched, oh God, I did have 2 streams up at one time on my screens, by the way, because I was watching Shroud play on Mixer, and which you couldn't get any drops, I don't think, from Mixer. But I wanted to see how he was doing, because I like watching him play. But it was funny, kind of his chat had a bunch of like, Shroud, Summit has 300,000 people and you only have 14 on Mixer, you know what I mean, kind of thing, which was a kind of a rip on Mixer a bit. But I was watching multiple streams. It was fun to watch. I watched probably 4 or 5 hours, but Dan did the most important thing. He played it. So Dan,
that's right. We got in there.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't have to watch a stream code. Reached out to Riot, got codes, and you guys were playing it. You guys did a new gameplay today, yesterday, live about it. And I'm sure you played into the wee hours last night. You had to have.
I did. I played till very late last night. Yes, yeah. I didn't play so great on the stream that we did because that's a game. Getting back those old Counter-Strike skills takes a long time. Some semblance of them, anyway. And so I've played quite a bit at this point, and I plan to play a lot more over this next week.
Yeah. So some quick table setting for anyone that doesn't know what this is. So Valorant is a new game from Riot, who best known for League of Legends, but they basically come out with saying we're going to compete with Counter-Strike, and their new game weighs heavily on Counter-Strike, and we'll talk about Dan here in a moment. But it also has their heroes, so it has that Overwatch sense that different players have different powers. The powers are certainly monitored. It's not as over the top as, say, Overwatch in the regard to how the powers are always like popping up and going off, but you have ultimates and you have various things that affect gameplay. So that's kind of the table set. And so for anyone that doesn't watch Counter-Strike, and I watch a lot of Counter-Strike, I don't play a lot of Counter-Strike, but I watch a lot of Counter-Strike. Dan is correct. It is a slower moving FPS 5v5, but that's kind of its charm in that it's slower moving. You can really watch the plays develop, and people really end up watching and understanding corners and corner peeking and where the attacks are coming from. It adds a lot of strategy to it because it's a little, you don't just like run around Rambo style. You need to be thoughtful in your movement and what you're doing and how you're trying to execute. In this case, you're planting a spike, or you're trying to remove the spike. It's kind of your offense or defense is essentially it. So, Dan, can you tell us about how you feel? How does this compare to Counter-Strike?
Yeah. So I knew this question was going to come up, so I've been thinking of how I can phrase this for the last day. and I've come down to it like, so the basis of this game is absolutely Counter-Strike. So if we're making a cake, all the eggs, the flour, and the sugar and that stuff, okay, that's all Counter-Strike. So what it's done is change the toppings, okay? That's how I'm putting it.
All right.
Same cake, but we've got different toppings on the cake, right? So we've got like gummy bears and the different colored sprinkles. But
what's toppings on cake?
It's like, you know, I put toppings on cake, Joe. How about that?
You put gummy bears on cake? I gotta try that.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, they're like little words, Dan, with the candle on it. And sparklers.
He's got it.
Man, if you're gonna say toppings, like with pizza.
All right, not toppings. We changed the flavor of the cake, okay? but it's still a cake, right? All that stuff's still there.
Yeah.
And you can really feel that. As an old Counter-Strike player, it's like they are adhering to it 1-to-1 in a lot of respects. Wow. Like, you know, the whole stop to shoot kind of thing you got to do in CS, the recoil on the guns. I mean, everything about it, you can really tell that it draws inspiration, I believe is the nice way to say it, from Counter-Strike, like heavily. Now,
I watched some people who were playing, they'd be like, what's the Phantom? They'd go, that's the M4.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Oh, what's this gun? Oh, it's the AK. Okay. Like, I mean, like that. It was that clear to everyone that had played it.
The guns are, again, pretty much 1-to-1 with their Counter-Strike counterparts. Absolutely. But we do have, so what we do have with the new stuff, right? And it does matter. It does make a big difference. But like going back to that, if your gunplay is no good, none of this stuff is going to help. You got to have that first. Solid gunplay is critical to doing CS. You can't play it like Call of Duty if you're not familiar with Counter-Strike. Like if you look around, the TTK is incredibly fast. Like you are going to die if you peek a corner and there's someone there. If someone sees you first, you're dead.
Time to kill, for anyone who doesn't know, TTK is time to kill.
Yes. It's you get hit with anything in the head, you die instantly. And you get hit anywhere else like twice, you die. So it's very, very fast, and you don't have a resurrection under normal circumstances. So it's round to round, 1-to-1. KDA is very important because if you're killing 3 people, that means you're a huge advantage in the other team, right? So it's all about setting that stuff up and playing much more tactically and way slower than a deathmatch game, for instance. But getting into the new stuff. So some of the character abilities are simple replacements for things that do exist in Counter-Strike, like smoke grenades or flashbangs and frag grenades, stuff like that. But in some respects, it does go way over the top into Overwatch ability land. And even Rainbow Six land. Like one of the characters, Cypher, is actually very interesting because he gets like a camera he can set up, which is very similar to a Rainbow Six. So you can put that camera, like you're like, okay, we're going to guard a bomb site. We don't have a person to cover that tunnel. Let's just put a camera in there. So you can actually see if people are coming down that route. So it's like having an extra set of eyes, which is very valuable. Other characters can just drop smoke from this. A lot of visibility marring kind of abilities, which make a big difference in a Counter-Strike environment. Like you can greatly reduce your visibility, opponent's visibility. You can cover point. All right, I'm putting a wall down here, so now this is a 1-lane highway. There's no other way in here, so we're going to have a sniper lane now because I put this. Or like I'm going to put smoke all over the place, and no one can see, so the site's guarded. And I'm just going to hang out behind a corner with a shotgun in the smoke cloud, and if they come into it, I'm going to blow them away. You know, that kind of thing. A lot of really tactical positioning with the abilities. And the abilities are focused.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, those can also be used, those area denials can also be used as strategic as well. I should point out that, like, you can put up a wall and then everyone will say, oh, they're on site A. That's the reason why they're doing it. But you yourself, your team is moving to site B or C. You can use them to deny not just access, but also as an ability to like show what kind of play you're making. Like an example would be, like you said, like the poison fog, like that kind of takes over a spot. You're like, oh, it's probably just going to be one person in there. And then you walk through and then all of a sudden the whole team's in there and you get owned, kind of thing. So it brings some interesting strategy, which I think
there's lots of, like, especially on certain characters, lots of like what I would area control and denial. Mm-hmm. Just the specialty of people who are in the controller class. right? So one of the characters that you're referring to is Viper, right? So by the way, I should mention none of this stuff matters to your guns, right? Everybody has access to the same guns. These characters don't have signature weapons or anything, but they do have signature abilities that can be purchased, like grenades or flashbangs in Counter-Strike. So you've got like just a little rack of flavorful character abilities that you can pick up before a match. So you have to purchase them like everything else. This is an econ-based shooter. So, maybe the first few rounds you're like, I'm going to play a pistol so I can get a big sniper rifle in a couple rounds because I can afford it then. If you're better if you're getting all the kills, you're going to be getting lots of money. You're going to have more armor. You're going to have more abilities. You're going to have bigger guns. And if otherwise you could just spend all your money every round. So there's some strategy being like, all right, we're 7 rounds up. Let's nobody buy this round. We'll just play with what we got and then try to, maintain economy equilibrium this way. So that's one element. But anyway, back to the controllers like Viper. Viper actually can put down these like gas traps, right? And then she can activate them over the course of the match. Like they stay there. So I could put them at B and I could go to A. And if I see that they're planting the spike at B, I can activate the traps from across the map and just gas that place out and where I've set it up. There's a lot of, I think when you got to be good at shooting to play this game, but I think where the really crazy skill-based stuff is going to happen in esports and like, wow, did you see that? It's going to happen with these abilities because they've got all kinds of really interesting mechanics like bouncing over stuff and where you place them, how you place them, when you activate them, timing and interaction with other abilities. That's where it's going to come into the like, wow, did you see what he did kind of element.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what character it was, but someone like right as the match started, someone had some power where they were able to be like right outside their spawning area, like super fast. Usually it takes a long time before you actually begin an engagement in like say Counter-Strike, and they were like there in a second. And it was like threw me off to have that kind of engagement happen that early in a match, because it does have that sense of flow that Counter-Strike does, which Dan alluded to, which is that the matches go to 12, 13
to win.
13.
So that's something.
There's a lot of matches, and that's like part of the ebb and flow of the game, is that you're going to lose some, but you hopefully come back as your economy comes back into play, because you do get money for losing and you get money for keeping your items when you win.
Yeah, and your abilities come online too. You're charging up your ultimates by getting kills, and you can also charge them up by finding these little orbs on the map. So those create points of conflict to fight over these ultimate orbs that will charge up your ultimate by a point. So that's an interesting thing that is not in Counter-Strike. So that creates these little zones where you're like, well, maybe I'll take this left exit out, which is going to be much more high traffic area, and I might get shot, but I can pick up this ultimate orb and I'll have my ultimate ability online earlier. And the ultimate abilities are very significant. You can like shoot through walls, teleport across the map, you get a rocket launcher, you come back to life, you can resurrect a teammate, all kinds of pretty wild stuff that has huge potential impact on a match, but you're not popping them off like every round.
So one of the things they did with this game, which I thought was interesting, Dan, and I want your opinion about this, is that they did a lot of things to make sure that it was competitive across the board, which was like make a game that could run on a lot of different hardware, right? So that people with great hardware didn't have an advantage. They also changed the servers, which is a big thing for Counter-Strike players, is that the public servers for Counter-Strike only do 64 ticks. And that these servers out of the gates are 128, which makes, for anyone that doesn't know, that's basically how many times the game refreshes the data of where you are and what's happening in the game. So at 64, it updates 64 times in a second. At 128 ticks, it's 128 times, so twice as fast. So things like shots that don't register or shots that miss because of just minor desync between the whole kind of general network could create a miss or a misfire. It's less likely to happen with this higher fidelity. And then also too, that the graphics, I think some people think the graphics are really suffering because of them trying to get it across this way. But what are your thoughts, Dan? How do you feel about these competitive editions and the graphic selections?
I like that they're starting from a point of esports competition off the bat, because it's pretty clear. Like that's who this game is for, in my opinion. Like I don't see call. I know it's super hot right now, and I think it'll maintain some heat as we go on. But like I can't see a lot of Call of Duty people, for instance, getting into this hardcore. Like it's just such a very different experience. Definitely designed for the competitive scene. I like that. I'm not seeing these are initial impressions. Yeah. I don't love how the characters look. They don't really do it for me. Like in comparison to other hero-based games, like I can't tell who's who from a distance, and that's fine. I'm just shooting them. But I don't know that they have the same kind of like personality or oomph that they're going for. For instance, to try to be for lack of, Overwatch heroes.
Just wait, Dan, until they put little snippets online that are about 10 seconds long to a minute long that give you backstory. It's going to change everything.
I have been fascinated by how many people have been asking me like the lore, and I'm like, you're playing this game for the lore? I just don't get it. I don't comprehend that. It's blowing my mind. I'm like, do you really? The goal of the game is to plant a bomb and shoot each other. There's no. Do they really need to have a story? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's great that they want it, and yes, I believe the lore will be handled that way. That's probably how it should be in a game like this,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The graphics and stuff aren't doing it for me, but I absolutely do love the fact that, like you said, I think it's really important that everyone can play on any rig and without worrying about lag and everything like that. That's great. That's a great dedication to what they're coming for right out the gates. Have that stuff ready. Have those high tick servers and let everyone play it. It's all even out. I can play it probably on a 10-year-old rig. Actually, that thing. I mean, it's ridiculous how it's smooth. It's very smooth, and that's the most important thing for a game like this, right? It doesn't matter if it looks pretty if you're not getting that. If you're getting a stutter when you're sniping, that can't happen. So it's got to run perfectly on everything, and from my experience, it does.
Yeah, I thought it. Like a lot of people were ripping on it. They were like, "Oh, this looks really good for a Vita game." I heard someone say that.
I mean,
I thought that was a little extreme. I do think at first I was like, it looks a little plain, but it's grown on me a little bit. I actually it's not mind blowing, but I do think it looks good, right?
I think it looks okay. And again, I don't know that not every game needs top of the line graphics. What this game needs more than anything is to run functionally and efficiently and buttery smooth. And that it does. And maybe it takes a hit in the graphics department there. In fact, it does. But I can live with that as long as I'm not going to be stuttering and lagging and all this other stuff. As long as it runs great and you're hitting what you're shooting at, we are in a place where this game can excel.
And the game is trying to set itself apart a little bit too. I think I think a lot of people have been really complimentary of the buy-in period, that you can just simply request a gun and your friend can just buy it for you. You don't have to do a bunch of
it's way better.
Like a swap period basically between matches, which has kind of streamlined the whole process. I think people are really enjoying that about this game. I think one thing that's been interesting is this game really lets you shoot through walls to change kind of the peek mechanic to some degree. So you can still peek and do other things like that. But the fact that you think you can just go back behind cover and be safe is not entirely true in this game. They try to use a lot of being able to shoot through most everything, it feels like, to finish someone off if need be. So it's I think trying to push people in a little bit a different play style than Counter-Strike, but it is so much Counter-Strike.
Like to that point, like I said, if you're already good at Counter-Strike and you know Counter-Strike, you're going to be very familiar with this. It does add new things, layering them on top, but it is very, 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 very Counter-Strike.
So Dan, can Valorant beat Counter-Strike at the end of the day? Or are they just complementary? Do they live in the same space? Is it a battle?
All things considered, right now, Valorant will destroy Counter-Strike because I don't think that Valve's efforts to keep Counter-Strike, have been Riot's going to put a lot of weight behind this. And maybe that will spur Valve into bringing Counter-Strike back, for lack of a better term. But I would wager that it won't, and I'd wager that Valorant just becomes the new Counter-Strike. That's my big Dan prediction for this.
That's your Dan prediction, because that's a big Dan prediction. Because Counter-Strike has had its biggest, it's had its most users within the last year at a single time.
It's an amazing game and has been for decades, right? And it's changed, but the game, the core gameplay has always been fantastic. And I remember playing that game for years at a LAN center, just every single day.
Yeah.
Right, just landing that crap out of that game, and it was so much fun, and it still is today for those that play it. That's the thing. I think Valorant is going to be big, but it's not going to have the massive weight that it's got right now. It's going to taper off because this just doesn't. It's not. I don't think Counter-Strike is as accessible as a lot of other shooters.
Yeah, but that doesn't make Valorant more accessible. Valorant is just as difficult to master as Counter-Strike.
Oh, sure. If we're comparing it just 1-to-1 to Counter-Strike, yeah. Like I said, I think because Riot is going to put so much behind it, will, if they want it to, it'll take over Counter-Strike, or Counter-Strike will have to respond. And knowing what Valve, I don't think they will.
They have to. I think they have to. I think they have to change some things to compete.
Okay.
I think this is the first real pressure they've had.
Yeah, you're right. It is. And Counter-Strike was sort of in a league of its own, right? It's the only game like that out there not technically the only game out there like that, but the only one that mattered until right now.
Yeah, so, if that style.
So you've got two cakes side by side.
One has pizza toppings.
Which one tastes better?
Well, right now I go with because I've had that cake, right? I've had that lemon meringue cake, all right, for like 20 years.
That's a pie.
Okay. Well, maybe you can have the cake. So, okay, I've had the angel food cake.
Oh, you are terrible at this.
I am terrible at this, but I think it makes sense, terrible or no. So people have been eating that cake for a long time, so they're going to want to try the new cake no matter what. I think some of the purists, there's going to be that segment of Counter-Strike. People are like, oh my God, I can get an ultra rocket launcher. I'm not playing this game. But I think a lot of people will gravitate toward it. They'll be like, wow, you know what? I get all the stuff that I've already got. And there's some really new, interesting stuff here that wouldn't fly in Counter-Strike, like all these crazy wall bouncing, bizarre moves, shooting through walls and all that stuff, which doesn't, ruin the gameplay because it's not like overbearing. It just happens sometimes. So it adds a lot of spark and excitement to the already amazing mechanics and feature set that Counter-Strike is known for.
So I've seen people compare it like 80% Counter-Strike, 20% Overwatch. What would be the percentages you give it? I know it's completely arbitrary, but I'm interested.
It's completely arbitrary. I'd say, God, I'd even go like 90-10.
90, 10.
But maybe 80-20. 80-20 sounds about right too. But like, if you play it, you're like, wow, I'm playing Counter-Strike again. This is Counter-Strike. Oh wait, but I've got like, I can take this guy's dead body and see where everyone is on the map. That's really powerful.
Also, too, I saw a character last night that had knives, that literally all of a sudden had 5 knives, was running around throwing knives, floating in front of them. I was like, where have I seen that before? I mean, like, there are times when it looks...
Yeah, the ultimate. So that's an ultimate. And the ultimates, a lot of the times, like I said, they have a very high skill cap. Like the knife thing, you can throw them all one at a time or all at once. So if you're really, really good and you want that big playing moment, you're like, okay, they're planting the bomb at B. I'm going to put my knives up. I'm going to turn the corner and I'm going to headshot with 3 knives, right? And then you're like, okay, clip that, put it on. That's your big move. That's the big watchable moment. And that's the thing. That's like, these watchable moments are a thing that Counter-Strike doesn't have. While Counter-Strike is really clean and it's awesome to see a guy pull off headshots and pistol shots and knife kills, when you add this element to it, it becomes even more of an event. Okay, to be like, whoa, did you see that thing? I killed 3 people with that rocket. That's awesome. Even if you're terrible at the game, you're going to get 1 ultimate or 2 ultimates per round or, per match. And you're going to be like, I did it. For that one moment, I won us around when I just fired a blind rocket and killed 3 people by magic. That can happen.
I'd like to point out.
I like that Dane's impression.
Go ahead. No, Joe, go ahead.
I was going to say, I like that Dane's impression of a Valorant player is essentially a surfer. Like
a surfer.
Cool. Did you see that?
Anyway,
that wasn't even worth it.
I enjoy watching Counter-Strike players make that shot and make that snipe, and I think that's still a big part of this game, as you pointed out. So I feel like those are still very watchable and very impressive plays, but it does add that, like, every once in a while you see someone come through with a power or like an area of denial that really makes a difference. Or I actually really enjoyed watching last night when people would put up the kind of like a maze ice shield, like an ice wall.
There is an ice wall, and it is very impactful. Like that thing is actually way more impactful, I think, in this game than Overwatch, just because like somebody breaks that shield, if somebody's on the other end, they're just dying. You're dead. Like it's because it's all one-shotting, right? The whole game is the game of one. So
yeah. And if you shoot it to take it down, everyone knows where you are, exactly. Right? So there's like, you're giving a lot of information by shooting at it. So it like felt really powerful. I mean, I'd watch whole teams like come around the corner, like, we're going to go A. And all of a sudden it'd be like ice wall. And they'd be like,
yeah,
all right, we got to rethink this. How are we going to do this?
It's interesting because you don't want to break the wall. A lot of times when that wall goes down, people won't even shoot through it. They'll just like assume that it's going to stay there. You can break it, but people don't because of the implication, right? Like, because it's going to show where everybody is and you don't know what's behind that wall. So the best thing is to just keep moving on. And go around the back.
Because every round is timed, eventually it comes to a point they put the wall up and you just don't have time. You have to make a choice. And I think that it has some interesting new choices that are not just suppression of an area or just watch one corner, that I do think makes Valorant, at least as someone who's a fan of watching this type of gameplay, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited myself.
I mean, I'm having a blast now for sure. But like I said, I think it is going to taper somewhat when people get in there and like having to start deal with like this is such a team-oriented game. Like if you don't have 4 friends to play with, I can see this game be really rough and pugs, just like Dota, just like League, just like any game where you're going to have to do a lot of talking and interacting, because this is a communication-heavy game. At the end of the day, very heavy. Like if you can't get your team on the same schedule to go like, all right, we're going to go A. You guys, you go flanked in with the shotgun in the back, and we're going to go plant here. And if they show up, then we're going to go left. If you're not communicating, you're just all running around. It's going to be a very bad match for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. And by the way, since we record this show on Wednesday and it comes on Thursday, we were talking about Tuesday as far as when that number's hit. But I'd also like to point out today, Wednesday, I checked it just as we started this podcast today, and it was another day of 1.5 million viewers on Twitch.
It's crazy.
So it's definitely an insane amount of viewership for this game, and a lot of anticipation. I think a lot of people and a lot of players are really excited about it. So if nothing else, go watch some of it. Go watch our a new gameplay today. It's a fascinating game, and I think I expect it to become part of our esports scene as we go forward, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. So
I expect.
Can I ask one last question about it here?
Of course.
Is it out? Like, is this just beta that's out forever? Is this a limited time thing? What's the deal?
This is a closed beta that I believe is getting mostly wiped when it goes into open beta, and then, well, you know how launches are now. So open beta will be out for all practical purposes, right? This is not out, but any purchases you make for like skins and cosmetics and stuff, you'll get back when the game comes out, when it goes into open beta. So it is a limited time thing. Not all the characters are in, not all the maps are in.
Do you know when it goes open?
No.
Okay. They haven't said.
I think maybe they said summer a while ago. I think that's the roadmap anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think too, I think it's tough. Sometimes with these kind of games, sometimes they make assumptions that they're going to turn this off, but if people are playing a ton of it, maybe they think it's a good idea to pull it off. They might say, well, we'll leave this out here a little bit longer.
I mean, I would the way that they've had their other closed betas and stuff, I would expect the closed beta to run until open.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Because I think they sometimes try to, I think they look at the reaction of the community. I think if everyone's being really positive, I think they try to leave it open a little bit longer. If there's like major problems, or if they're, I know they've had a couple server issues during this. If that continues, they may pull it down for things like that.
And obviously one of the great things about having this beta with bringing in hundreds of thousands of players, they can start doing, data analysis on what's OP and what's not. And those changes will formulate when we go into open beta, and hopefully it'll be more balanced and competitive at that point. Before they put like ranking in and everything. Oh God, that's going to be a nightmare. Like everybody's pretty chill right now because it's not all the games are unranked, but I can see people getting pretty nasty when ranks are on the line.
Wait a second, gamers? No way, Dan.
I mean, that's
ridiculous. All right, so
any team-based games like that. Anyway, I like it a lot so far.
Some really interesting game news this week. Thank you both, by the way. It's a very insightful take on all those games. But that's it for our game talk for right now. We're going to go into a little bit of news and talk about some big things that happened. And one of those things is that Sony just randomly on a Tuesday is like, hey, everybody, PlayStation 5 controller, here you go. And we were like, what? And I mean, it was even like a weird time. It was like 2:15 in the afternoon. It didn't make any sense, but cool. All right. So it's called the Sony DualSense. They point out a number of things with it. One, you should go look at it. I'm sure we can put it on screen now. Is that it's got a new vibe to it. It's like two-tone. In this one they showed, it's got kind of a white and black tone, which I know for some of my friends, they were kind of annoyed. They liked the kind of classic colors of the triangle and the square and things like that. But I looked at it more as like, here's a kind of an empty slate. We'll do a bunch of cool things with this over time, was my take. But there's a lot of great takes on the internet. Of course, there are where people did like full, all black versions. There's someone who did just crazy ones that were like showing very well. Let me just look on your own and come up with your own answers. I don't want to ruin them for you. And then finally, too, what they talked about was that it has a microphone array on it, so you can do voice commands without a headset on, though they do still recommend that as part of the experience, which is interesting, by the way, because I'd like to ask the group on this, is that I wonder if they're going to introduce more voice-based commands through this by having it be there. Things like, Xbox Clip That. Some of the good things that came from Kinect and those kind of areas, I would have to imagine they're going to play some of that, or other things like Alexa or those kind of things. I mean, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
You think I do this? They got to, right?
Why not? It's good.
I hate that stuff. So I don't.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't like the voice command stuff.
Even if you could be like, while you're playing, be like, Spotify, this game's boring, play Queens of the Stone Age. You wouldn't think that was cool?
I don't think I'd ever do it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't think I would use those commands, especially if they still have hey, here's just a button to take a screen. I'll hit the button instead of opening my dumb mouth.
Well, I think adding those kind of voice commands, I mean, I've hated, like, I used to really hate Siri. She never listened to anything I ever said, at least accurately, but I feel like it's gotten better over time. And so I feel like there's going to be some voice AI that makes its way into games, or maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think it should be. If not, I think it's a really helpful way to do things and to manage your stuff, especially too, like sometimes when I just want to watch Netflix on my console, it'd be great to just be able to go, hey, bring up Netflix, play the show, as I'm like rearranging things. And, you know, I don't know. I feel like it could there's could be some cool things you could do with that.
I did love that when Kinect was a thing on the One. I did love those smaller aspects. I didn't love when NBA would like give me a technical file because one of my friends swore. But other than that, like, there was some stuff that I enjoyed, and I think it'd be interesting for Sony to take a kind of a tech from Microsoft that was bemoaned and make it like successful. That's intriguing to me, and I didn't think about that when I first looked at it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought when they said array too, because that means they want to be able to get your a number of places within the room, or at least that's the way I read it. Mm-hmm. And then also too, like it gets rid of the annoying camera, which didn't work with Kinect and caused all kind of problems, and did what you said, which was like, I think a lot of people enjoyed being able to walk by and go like Xbox on, you know what I mean? And some of those other things that were just conveniences that even people like Joe, curmudgeons like Joe, may eventually change and use some of those voice commands, because I think it's possible. I think that could be a cool addition to the PlayStation 5. Now, obviously, I don't know that this is true. This is an Andy prediction, no Dan prediction, but it's my own kind of thought when you see that thing in there. And then also they pointed out that they really wanted this. They have a line in there, by the way, which I wanted to kind of vomit in my mouth, because whenever anybody says something like this, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But basically they were like, we want you to have this controller in your hands, and it feels so good that, do you even have a controller in your hands? Which, God, you just got to be kidding me.
PR intern just going too hard.
I'm playing with air.
Yeah. I mean, like, do you even know it's there? Yes, I know it's there. I get it. It's not going to go away.
I would be upset if it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is the line. So much so that they forget that it's even in their hands, with an exclamation point. I'd like to add, with an exclamation point. Wow. Very annoying. But they also talk about they want to add more tactile stuff to the game to make sure you can, like, you know, feel the steering wheel, blah, 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 those kind of things. But I think it's interesting they're going to do the L2 and R2 are going to have more tactile feedback as you pull on them. So, you know, the classic, when you pull back on the arrow, and you all heard it before.
Yeah. But I don't think it sounds like features that you will see in about 6 launch games. Never again.
Yeah.
So I do have questions for the group, though. I was surprised to see the giant kind of touchpad from the PlayStation 4 return, right? Like, what did you guys think? Did you guys think that was going to happen? Are you surprised that it's part of the PlayStation 5 controller?
Oh, you mean the map button?
Yeah, the map button, essentially, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that big button. I guess did they for sure confirm that it's like it's a touch sensitive?
I guess maybe they didn't, but I mean, it's there, right?
The wording was very
it's there. It's got to be, right? It has to be.
Well, and in the beginning they talked about how the success of the DualShock 4, they didn't want to change a ton of it, so I'd have to imagine that that's more touch based now, or the same amount.
Or maybe it's just like you said, Joe. I mean, they had touch before. It was just a big button. But it was nice because it was a big button you couldn't miss, right? Yeah. I mean, like, you were like, you hit it every time.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, that button has become the new start button for me, right? Like, that's the button that you hit when you want to pause your game, when you want to bring up the map, when you want to see the menu, like whatever it is, that's
what that does.
And it's so hard to miss. I think that's smart in terms of the actual, like, touch functionality for it. I get more annoyed when games do that because I will accidentally rub up against it and make something happen instead. But
yeah. The also funny thing too is they said the share button is gone. It's now the create button. It's the create button. You don't share, you create with this.
We're all content creators now.
We're all content creators now. And the other funny thing too, which I loved, is that someone put up a photo of it, which if you look at the photo, it has like 3 little, like, I've been shocked lines over the one button. And then it has 3 sideways ones, like the classic, like, internet hamburger one.
Yeah.
And someone was like, how do you tell somebody what button to push? like, what am I supposed to tell them? And I think they want you to say that. I believe create is going to be the 3 open ones like this. But someone pointed out that essentially they added the honk button from the Goose Game.
I saw that.
So they just cut right to it, which I thought was hilarious. I mean, they stuck to a lot of like what it did before. Are you happy? Are you disappointed? Do you need to play it? Thoughts?
I think, before I pass judgments, I need to have my hands on it and feel it. It was getting a ton of comparisons to the Xbox controller, which I think is fair, but I think it looks more and more like the Pro controller from the Switch, which is still not a bad thing because that thing is one of the best controllers I think out there. I didn't love it when I first looked at it, but I'm into it now a little bit more. But I like Xbox controller better, and a lot of it is because it's the offset sticks. And until Sony does that, which they've shown that they're not going to, I prefer Xbox controller a little bit better because of that. But I think it looks aesthetically, it was a little jarring at first, but I think it's going to be. I think people are going to fall in love with it when it comes out.
And I'd like to point out, I do think there are 2 very real camps. I think people like the offset and the symmetrical setup. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's camps there. I don't care either way. I don't think it affects my play either way.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, I one way or the other for the sticks doesn't bother me, but it seems like we are past an era where with a new generation, from the NES to SNES, suddenly there's like, look at all these new buttons, look at this new thing. It's like, it seems like we are past an era where a new iteration of a console brings with it some drastic reimagining. I mean, like, remember how badly Sony got made fun of when they introduced like the boomerang PS3 controller?
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that came up a lot yesterday on all the Twitter comments.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I think that was the last time that I think a company has tried to be like, look, we're really doing something different. And everyone was just, boo. So I think at this point, what we're talking about is our minor, like, how do you prefer the sticks? What do you call your button that you use to capture funny glitches?
Yeah.
They also,
I'm happy with, like, I think the design looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, but I don't have, like, it doesn't seem like we are in a phase where it is different enough to elicit a really strong response from me.
Yeah. Gotcha. I did see that, there was a time there was that kind of rumor going around about them talking about taking your, like, how much your hands were sweating or your heart rate and adding those to the controller. They didn't mention any of that stuff, but there was that kind of like trademark, I think, going around for a bit, which I do still think is an interesting addition, but I know they're trying to balance battery life and weight and ergonomics and other things like that. But how about you, Dan? It's not a mouse and it's not a keyboard.
Exactly. So, you know what? I honestly, I don't care.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I think with you, Joe, I think it looks solid. Looks like it's definitely can perform. I actually thought in a lot of ways, I thought we were going to get those back buttons as permanent additions, the ones out of the box.
That's a good point.
I mean, they kind of don't show you a camera angle where you see the back. They could be hidden there. Like, it could be a secret reveal later, but it didn't look like they were there, and it wasn't mentioned. I thought that would be something they would mention if it was there. So I'm interested in that. I'm interested to know too. I always thought that was really interesting because there was not a lot of moving forward for the Xbox controller. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but they were saying that the Xbox Series X would be backwards compatible with previous controllers, which I thought was a cool thing and a cool addition for the Series X. And since you look at this new PlayStation 5 controller and it looks like, I mean, at least one for one, the buttons are the same. Sure, it's not share, it's create, like whatever. It still looks like the same button count to me. So it looks like you could have some backwards compatibility as far as controllers go, which isn't bad for when your friend shows up and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, we can play together. You can use my old controller, right? Kind of thing. All right, so that was some news, big news. Next up, what I just want to comment on just kind of quickly was that they announced the E3 2021 will be June 15th through the 17th, and they called it reimagined. I did air quotes, by the way, if you didn't catch it from my inflection. So what the hell that means, I don't know, but I guess it's good news that there's an E3 coming. A lot of people are concerned about it. A lot of people are concerned about it being gone from this year. I think it's still a big talking point in the game space. It still carries a lot of weight with gamers throughout the world. So I thought that was information that was pertinent and that should be out there.
I mean,
you got
before they expect anyone to like get excited or reassured by that, though. I mean, like before E3 was canceled this year because of the pandemic, it was still not looking good because of just major companies not attending. It's like before, right? So before,
it's reimagined, Joe. It's been reimagined without that big company attending.
Yeah, before you expect anyone to sort of get back on board or remotely excited about whatever reimagined means, like they need to show people that whatever concerns there were that caused this like huge exodus from the event, like you need to address that with more than saying it's reimagined.
Yeah. It's true.
Because this year's event was supposed to be drastic and different and reimagined, and people apparently hated it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's the interesting thing is I think missing this year, you could say is a benefit that it puts everyone in a like you need to put up or shut up mode. You can't just say it and not do it. Like now you either do it and it lives on or you don't, and you don't matter anymore. I mean, I kind of feel like that's the reality.
Yeah, and I know which way I think that's going to lean.
Dan predictions.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Dan predictions.
We have that one on record already.
We do. I think we do actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting them announcing that right now, and maybe I'm taking the wrong read on it, but that tells me that they're going to let all the developers do their own digital showcase. Then it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like it's going to be as branded as E3, because if it would, I feel like wouldn't they have said, we're partnering with Microsoft to give you the digital E3 experience? It seemed like they're punting to next year.
Oh, I think that officially came out, that they're just not doing anything for 2020.
Gotcha.
And they're sort of leaving it in the individual
devs' hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I have no problem with.
Though it would have looked better for them as a company if they would have said, here is our plans for a digital week of like fun, exciting events.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be back next year with a reimagined E3 on these dates. Instead, it was like, even before the new E3 happened, they were already like kind of passing it over, which does not kind of, I mean, I do think there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff in January. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm just saying it does have a weird kind of deflated sense to it in the way that it was delivered.
Yeah.
So next, speaking of deflating news, just as we finished the show last week, they announced SEI has made the difficult decision to delay the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR until further notice. Logistically, the global
right there,
the 1-2
of equal weight, yeah,
of equal weight. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from providing the launch experience our players deserve, which is like, I get it. I did get a question though. I want to read to before we discuss it, which is this is from Aaron from New Jersey, and I moved it up. I know this is the community section, but it was relevant to this discussion. As you already know, The Last of Us 2 was delayed in part to avoid the spread of spoilers. However, I think the last major release that wasn't spoiled by the YouTube algorithm showing video spoilers on the main page days before the release date was Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy came out there. It was staggered. It got out in, I believe, Australia area, right, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of the US launch. And they're kind of asking, like, why is it okay for there to be a staggered release for Final Fantasy VII and not for The Last of Us? And I think it's a good question, Aaron. I think there's a lot more to that question than that. I think a lot of things has to do with logistics, right? I think The Last of Us, believes they're going to sell a certain amount of physical copies in stores, and literally there are game stores that are just closed. Like they're just not there. And Final Fantasy VII, I feel like, was already so far in the process that they kind of had to like roll with the punches as they came in, as things changed. But where The Last of Us was looking at the end of May, they said this could still be going on. We need to reevaluate, because we're having a harder time testing. We're having a harder time doing the things that we would normally do to make the game, but also distributing the game is way more difficult. And like, if they lose 1 million or 2 million in sales because of the current environment, that's a big loss to them. They need this game to be successful. They invest a lot in that game. So I think it's more than that. It's not that Final Fantasy, it was okay for Final Fantasy. I think Final Fantasy, if given the choice, would have wanted game stores to be open.
Yeah. And I think, and this isn't my area of expertise, but I think that it's also important to acknowledge like how quickly things have been moving with like the way things have been adapting around the pandemic too, because like realistically Final Fantasy VII was 8 weeks further down the production line.
Yeah.
Right? Like which means that they were probably that much closer to actually having their things like boxed out, like wrapped up, ready to ship and all that stuff. I think that probably gave Square Enix a different set of decisions than Sony has.
Yeah.
When it came to how to handle all of that merchandise.
And I thought it was an interesting point. People were like, why delay Iron Man VR? And I would like to point out the reason I think they would want to delay Iron Man VR is that they assume with the new VR game that you might buy a PlayStation headset. You know what I mean? And that becomes a little bit more difficult, or maybe not quite the impulse buy that maybe it would be like in a physical location versus just like ordering it online. It maybe limits the market of who they would get, or maybe engage new people in PlayStation VR.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
They want it to be attached to VR sales.
Yeah, I mean, it's
game sales.
Yeah,
I mean, when you have a deal with Marvel, right? Like, there's one of the biggest licenses in the world that everyone knows, and you're going to see someone go, "I want to be Iron Man," which is one of the biggest, most beloved Marvel characters in the world right now. They assume people are going to want to go and see that and go, "Oh, I want to try to be Iron Man in VR." That it's going to introduce new people to it, and to do that, they need to have those kind of touch points, let's say, to engage that experience. So I know it was an easy like punching down to kind of say Iron Man VR is like not as important as The Last of Us, but I do think this was crucial for that title as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
And well, I mean, to be fair though, that same comment could be made about almost any other game coming out this year, with the exception of Cyberpunk. I mean, like The Last of Us 2 is one of the biggest releases of the year. I didn't mean that as a like comment on the quality of Iron Man.
Oh, of course not. I don't think we were. I mean, I think what we were saying is more along the lines of like people are like, oh, way, you know what I mean? Really matter. And I think all those things matter. When you're trying to make a successful game, you need as much help as possible. So I agree with you, Joe. So what do you guys think this does to Ghost of Tsushima?
Oh, I think we're gonna get a delay on that in the next month or two. If
Alex prediction.
I was gonna say I wanted to jump on it before Dan could get there.
But I mean, what even beyond that one game, the larger question is like, just what does that mean for anything coming out this year? I mean, like whatever fate befalls Ghost of Tsushima on that front, I think we're going to see any number of other major releases scheduled for the next, through the summer, but then that probably cascades into the fall, into the holiday season. Like,
if it's all going back, it's all going back. The only question is to what degree, right? Yeah. Some stuff's going to get moved back a little, and some stuff's going to get moved back a lot. But you can expect delays for pretty much everything.
Well, and that's the thing. If some of these production centers aren't open till July or August, like, sorry, but that's going to affect Cyberpunk again. That's going to affect Avengers, which sucks. But like, if they're having the same issues with this, and that's not even thinking about the aspect of the working from home, how that's hurting devs too. It's like, I think naively, there was a time when like Animal Crossing and Doom were coming out where I was like, oh, sweet, video games aren't quite as affected as something like movies, but I think we're going to start to see that, which
oh yeah, that was stupid.
Yeah. That's why I said naive.
I think another factor that's related to this is if the consoles are coming this year. If they're coming this year, then stuff might not get moved back. If it hits this year, then they hit this year, right? Like, that's how there's a relationship there. I think.
Yeah. It's definitely it's a lot more confusing than it was.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, we're at the end of a gen. You have an entire backlog of many years of excellent games for the systems that you currently own.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Check those out.
For sure.
Yeah. I've definitely been trying to play a variety of games, but we all love the new. That's our problem as gamers. We're always like, it's new, it's shiny, it's shiny, new, get it, play it. I want to play the new. So last week, I don't know if this is like a section in this show, but I saw a meme that was going around on Twitter. I thought it was kind of fun to make my own version, challenge you guys last week with telling me the 4 games that defined you as a gamer. We did that. Of course, you're not going to believe this, but there was a new meme going around on the internet this week.
No way.
I know, it's mind-blowing. But I saw one going around that was basically like people would put up an array of 9 things and say you can only pick 3 and you just get to keep 3. The other 6, are gone, out of existence. Blah blah blah. It's basically, and I'd like to point out, I think the internet ripped off our stupid Kiss, Marry, Kill game and applied it to a bunch of. Now I don't know. We didn't invent Kiss, Marry, Kill, but we brought it back. We brought it back.
Big way.
Does everyone else? Do you have your boots pulled high? Because the BS is a real high at the moment. I know. Okay, all right. That's enough on my weird little self promotion. So I made one. So I made one that I'm gonna make you 3 pick 3 from these 9 games. Please play along at home. Put your answers in the comments. Would appreciate it. I do enjoy reading them. So here you go. Here are the 9 games, and I picked 9 games that I think are I just went huge. Like, I picked big games, big franchises. It's the whole kabang. It's not just one game. It's the whole franchise. All of it. Halo, Zelda, Final Fantasy. It's already hard right there. Mario, God of War, Pokemon, and finally, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto. So you're not getting out of this without basically killing off a much beloved franchise, right? Like, so you got to pick 3. All right, so you got 3. I'm gonna read them to you again: Halo, Zelda, Final Fantasy, Mario, God of War, Pokemon, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and GTA. You pick 3. You don't have to tell me why you get rid of the other 6. We don't want to beleaguer this, but I want to know, what are your 3? I'm a window into your world. What are your 3 games that you save out of that?
Clarifying question.
Wait, do we save? We only get to save 3?
You get
to save 3.
Okay.
Oh.
Fine question. When we save that, or like if a franchise dies, we don't save it, does that like wipe out its history or just its future?
I think let's just talk about it as the future. Like, what 3 games do you want in the future? Because that's what you get. You don't,
Gotcha.
We don't have to erase your memory or anything like that.
Okay.
But like, what 3 do you want going forward?
Okay, I've got mine.
All right, Joe, you're up. Let's hear it.
First one to save is God of War.
God of War.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love that that reboot, but I think it's also interesting that as a series, it's one that acknowledges its history so well. Like, it's got that history on the previous platform, which is sort of integrated into its version of Kratos on the new one, but it's still, in a modern version, is still like more sophisticated, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that story goes.
Gotcha.
Sort of in its new incarnation. So that one's just got a great mix of like history and future that I want to see more of. Final Fantasy.
I knew that was coming.
Well, I have to play however many installments this remake is to see the end of it at this point. So I have to keep that going. And I think my third is Zelda to save, which, even not the most ardent fan of that series over. I mean, I played many of the games. I like a lot of them. I would not want to close off the possibility of more of those of 2D Zelda, like they did with Link Between Worlds, or I haven't played it yet, but I'm excited to play Link's Awakening Switch. Like, I want more of that style of Zelda.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. All right.
I don't want that to die. And Breath of the Wild's pretty good too, but
all right. So we got you. You like the RPG, and then an RPG with a really angry guy is what you like.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Alex or Dan, you guys ready to answer?
Yeah. Can I get the list one more time before I do it? I got my 3, but I want to make sure.
Yes, of course you can. Halo, Zelda, Final Fantasy, Mario, God of War, Pokemon, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto.
All right. I save Final Fantasy, Zelda, and Call of Duty.
Final Fantasy, Zelda, and wow! I was not expecting to get a double up on Final Fantasy. That's a interesting twist.
I'm hoping out that someday we'll get an old school Final Fantasy game again.
So are you? So are you then excited for Remake? Are you going to play that this weekend?
I'm gonna play it, but I wouldn't say that my excitement level 7. I didn't want to get into this whole Final Fantasy 7 conversation today. About.
Well, here we are.
Yes, I'm gonna play it. I like 7. I think 7 is a great game. I just don't think it's the best game of all time. Like a lot of people hold it in that regard, and I don't think it's the best Final Fantasy. I don't think it's even close. But I am interested to see what they do with the series moving forward. I think all the Final Fantasies in the last, 15 years have pretty much been bad. So there you go.
You are indeed rowdy and rural.
Yeah.
But I have massive love for the old ones, and I go back and play them all the time.
All right, that's interesting. All right, those are some choices. Okay, all right, Alex, you're up.
Just to get it out of the way, I'd save Zelda. All the reasons listed, 2D, 3D, fantastic. I would save Halo. From a nostalgia standpoint, from a shooter standpoint, I think there's plenty to offer there. This last one is hard for me because it
any of the other ones?
Say again, Joe, you cut out for me.
Oh, because you don't like any of the games that are left?
Yeah, I hate the rest of the series. I think I save Pokemon.
I knew it.
I know.
I knew it.
know.
That's disgusting.
I know.
Do you know what you did?
Yeah, I killed the
all of those choices, and you save Pokemon.
Holding out hope for that RPG, Dan. The MMO. Holding out hope. A fool's errand.
I mean, even if that MMO did happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what else is on the list?
No, I just blanked out the rest of them. Like to keep it spicy here.
For my answers, I love a good open world, and the only real open world I like on there is Grand Theft Auto. So I think I would Grand Theft Auto is my first selection. I gotta pick Zelda. I just think I don't know what world I don't pick Zelda. It's very tough. And then at the end, I also have it's very tough. I mean, killing Mario is just, I can't even fathom not choosing Mario, but because I've chosen Zelda, and I'm like, Zelda's going to give me enough to cover Mario for me that I should pick something else. And I got to say, I sound incredibly like I'm incredibly mainstream at this point, but like, I got to be able to shoot somebody with the game. I just do. I'm sorry. I know I sound like a murderer, I guess, at this.
Yeah.
But like at that point, I have to choose between Halo and Call of Duty and Fortnite. And out of those three, I think I pick Call of Duty. So for me, Call of Duty, Zelda, Grand Theft Auto, which is like, I mean, I picked.
You did pick Grand Theft Auto, which is referred to by uninformed people as Murder Simulator.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
There's lots of shooting in that.
There is, but it's different kinds of shooting. It's not the same.
Mario.
I know, and by the way,
didn't you kill Mario too?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, that's me. I'm allowed.
Yeah, I mean, over Final Fantasy 2, but that's a different argument. We're gonna leave that behind. So that's their meme of the week. We'll see if this keeps going. It's kind of fun. It's like a weird little thing. We'll see. But that is the first section of our show. We are going to come back with community emails. We're going to come back with GI Town. We're going to come back with Kiss, Marry, Kill, which inspired this entire meme across the entire internet. And so thank you for listening. We will be right back. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Andy McNamara. We are still quarantined, doing these from home. So as always, we ask that you understand that we're going to have some technical difficulties along the way. We miss our wonderful studio that we normally do these from, but we are kind of having fun doing them from home. So welcome back. In this segment, we're going to do community emails and play some games. So it should be fun. Returning from the first segment is my wonderful panel, which is Dan, the Jack Attack.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Joe Juba.
Hello.
And Alex Stadnick.
Hi, friends. Hope you're staying safe, doing well.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. You know, once again, anyone out there, which I get a lot of emails that say that they're out there, they're still working. They appreciate the podcast for being able to listen to it as they're out there working. Once again, you are heroes. Anyone out there still working? I mean, I know we're working, but we're working from home. If you're out there working in like the line of fire, thank you so much for that. Really can't say thanks enough. And hopefully our silly little show makes your day a little bit better. And that's for people out there anywhere just during this pandemic. If, go games, go Game Informer show. Let's go. All right, let's start with some emails. Hello, Andy and the McNamaras. I hope you guys are staying safe during these times we're in right now. My question is, if you could go back and relive a time in your lives where gaming felt the most fun and special for you, when would it be and why? Thank you and stay awesome, dudes. Luke Nelms from Elko, Nevada. Thank you, Lucas. It's a very nice email. And that brings the question to you guys. So, what was your favorite time in your lives? When did gaming feel the most magical? Which, I mean, let's be realistic. It's always magical, but the most magical in your lives. Joe Juba.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have two weird answers for this one. I think for me, the obvious one is when I was a sophomore in college, which would have been about the year 2000 or so, is when basically I had my academic pursuits, and anytime that I wasn't doing that, I was playing video games. And this was the time when the Final Fantasy games were coming out basically at like a one a year or every other year clip. You had like 7, 8, 9, and 10 all sort of came out in pretty rapid succession there. And as a fan of that series, that was a big deal for me. But then that's also when I started getting into some other PS1 games. Like, I played so much Tony Hawk with like friends in my dorm, and Metal Gear Solid was around that time for me. So like, in my mind, I think not only because of how great the games were, but because my only real job was to be a student. So anytime I wasn't engaged in that, I was just 100% in games all the time.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Which is pretty magical. But then the other magical time, I couldn't decide between the two. The other one was just when I first started at Game Informer, because there's that sense of this thing that like for so long had been my hobby that I enjoyed. And then it was sort of like coming to terms with the very magical feeling of like, I get paid to do this now. Like, Reiner or Andy would swing by my desk and like drop a game on it and just be like, here, that's yours. Play it. Tell us what you think. It's like, wow. So that was pretty great.
Yeah.
That is pretty great. How about you, Alex?
I think I like Joe's point about starting at GI, being able, like, in my first week, Jeff Cork coming down and handing me the copy to Link's Awakening was just a magical feeling. Like, oh, like I get to do this for work now. But outside of that, it's definitely the build up and then release of Halo 3 is the most hyped and most magic I think I've felt, just because it was every GI had something about Halo 3, and everything on XPlay and G4 had it. You know what I mean? It was just everything kept building and building. And then I remember staying up till like midnight watching G4's coverage of the New York launch of Halo 3 they came in on like warthogs and like, all that kind of stuff. And it was just absurd, but it was so great. And then that was the one game where like, and Call of Duties and stuff too, but it's just it's kind of that moment in time where all of my friends, we all played together, we all played Halo, and there wasn't any doubt whether we were going to be on or not, where that changed when we got into high school and then to college. So I'll always hold that moment of hype and nostalgia very closely to my heart. So
there was a lot of hype. There's no doubt. Yeah. There was a lot of hype.
Yeah.
How about you, Dan?
Well, I bet you can guess mine. Mine is definitely, let's see, the Burning Crusade. The entirety of the Burning Crusade, from the midnight release, where I played for like 48 hours straight, to the raids, Serpentine Cavern, Karazhan. Karazhan is amazing. Best dungeon ever made. Basically, that entire chapter of World of Warcraft in my life, I was playing, I don't know, 10 plus hours a day.
Wow.
Were you working or were you a student or what were you doing?
I was working and I was a student. Probably should have. There were long days. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But those were, I'd come home from work. I'd probably do less classwork than I should have, and played lots and lots of Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade was definitely the pinnacle of World of Warcraft for me, and definitely like the best gaming times I ever had with that crew. Many of which I still interact with on a daily or weekly basis, inside and outside of games.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a tough question. It's a really hard question. There's numerous times where I really felt like things were really great. I think for me, oddly enough, I think I miss most, this sounds weird, like when it wasn't my job, which has been, most of my life, games have kind of been my job. Even when I played EverQuest, even when I played WoW, I was, that was part of what I did. So I think I kind of long a bit for, I barely went to high school. I basically played NES games full time for high school. And that was kind of a magical time. No responsibilities, nobody asking me questions. I didn't have rent to pay, none of that stuff. It was pretty fun, pretty magical. And, the NES really sparked my imagination at the time. I know the graphics seem crude at this moment, but at the time it was a lot of fun to explore games at a way and at a level that I'd never seen before. So I loved that. That's mine. Thank you all for those great answers. All right. So this one follows right into it. I think at least a bit. You know what? Actually, I think we're going a little bit long. We are going to fast forward a little bit, which is, hi, GI folks. This is my first time writing in, but have been listening since the first podcast Matt made back in the day. This is a long letter.
Wow,
sorry if it's too long. Yeah, so that is a long time. And Helgeson, if you're out there, check it out, right? I really like the conversation about matchmaking. I feel like it does strike some interesting points about not just game design, but digs into deeper and huge discussion in tech and how data is used to define people and their behavior. Thank you for that, by the way. And I enjoyed the conversation last week. I hope everyone who listened did. It definitely was a little polarizing, but there are a lot of, I would like to point out too, I'm off topic here a little bit. There are a lot of great comments on GameInformer.com and also on YouTube where people talked about their feelings about skill-based matchmaking. And I think it was fascinating and interesting to read. I recommend it. You do you, but I recommend it. It was fun. I think people had a lot of things to say. And we had a lot of great letters. Too many letters that I could do on this show, by the way, I'd like to point out. In particular, I thought the point Dan made about devs potentially feeding in bots that are tuned to specific difficulties to try and get players to behave in specific ways, such as spending more money. It's developers manipulating people at the end of the day to get some kind of outcome that they want, whether it's just making the player feel better and how they got to the next rank or how they played. The one thing I found most interesting about the conversation is I was recently presented with the problem of designing an AI in a single player game. And the thought occurred to me that this task is extremely bizarre. You're basically doing a massive amount of work to design a computer to be terrible at beating the player, but be just good enough so that they can succeed so the player can feel good about themselves when they eventually win. The somehow sad truth is every time the designer behind the computer is essentially letting you win. Which is kind of interesting that like AI, ultimately they want to beat it. But Dan brought up the idea that he doesn't want just to be a part of the machine, that the matches may be predetermined for a specific outcome. So why play anyways? So it goes into like interesting thoughts, I think, on that direction. And also too brings up the point that like the best AI, I personally feel like having somewhat predictable AIs are in part what makes them fun to play against, because rather than a predetermined outcome, it is more like a distinct obstacle you can observe and then you can challenge yourself to overcome, similar to many goals in life, which I think is true. Like some of the better AI falls in that line. Yeah. So this is from Mike from Boston. I know it's a little off topic, but I wanted to revisit the skill-based matchmaking stuff. And I thought it was really interesting, his comment about AIs and in games, that they literally kind of design them to let us win. It is an interesting point. What do you guys think about the kind of design to let us win, right? It's kind of true, isn't it? You guys are just shaking your head.
Well, we talked about this extensively like last week. I think we covered a lot of it already. I think it's an interesting comment. Who's making? Pretty soon we're going to have games making games. So that's what we're gonna be.
I love it when Dan gets in. It's like who's wagging the dog, the tail or the dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good comment. I don't have a whole lot to add to it, though.
All right, then we have more. We have one last matchmaking one that I'm going to bring up. So, dear Andy and the Americans, I was riding my mountain bike while listening to the discussion about skill-based matchmaking. Dan Tack's assertion that they can pair us into games that encourages us to spend money. Which, by the way, obviously, Dan, your comment resonated with a lot of people. Yeah, Dan's so proud of himself right now.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, it was a great point last week. This suggestion was so appalling to me, it caused me to eat bleep on a turn on a trail I ride like twice a week. So thanks for that. I
wasn't trying to hurt anybody, so I'm sorry.
Well,
you mean this person wiped out on their bike because of something Dan said, and he's happy about that?
Yeah,
I just said I'm not happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
This is usually a Joe kind of thing to kind of like revel in the pain of others. So speaking of mountain biking, quarantine made me revisit Lonely Mountains Downhill, which I like to mention as well. And I'm so impressed about how well it captures the sensation of mountain biking. If there's a video game that kind of crosses with an interest you have, check it out. And also, this is from Zane Dukes from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's one we've talked about. I'm following him on some various biking things because I'm a bike nerd, and we've talked about this program that we both do called Zwift, where we do like virtual bikes. And he suggested actually last week that we do a Game Informer virtual ride. I don't know if there's other Zwifters out there, but I would put it out there if there are other Zwifters and they want to maybe do a GI virtual ride in this weird quarantine. Sounds like Zane's down, even though we didn't hurt. Like Dan almost hurt him last week, which I can't believe you, Dan. But yeah, rowdy and rural.
Nothing I can say about that, really.
Yeah, it really is. And so that would be cool. If people are interested, let me know. Send an email to podcast@gameinformer.com. Let me know your thoughts if you'd like to do that. And also, if you have any questions or anything like that, I haven't brought that up too many times in this show, but podcast@gameinformer.com if you've got questions.
That's true. We haven't talked about smashing any subscribe buttons.
We haven't. I've been bad this week. I've not been very good. So smash, subscribe, bell. Notices.
Whole kit and caboodle.
Yes, do it, please. We really appreciate it. All your support matters.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to kind of discussing last week. But if you missed it last week, I really enjoyed the talk about skill-based matchmaking. It didn't do as well on YouTube as when we talk about PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Who knew?
Weird.
It didn't compete with hardware. But I thought it was interesting and compelling, so hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Hello, Game in Homers. Get it? Hope you guys are doing well. I had a question for you all. Are there any strange gaming habits you have? For example, I personally don't like to turn on a console unless I have 2 hours available to game. And I will not turn on a console on back-to-back days.
What?
That might be, I don't know if that's just like a habit. I can't live like that. There's just no way.
That's like a religion.
Yeah, it is. Also, if it's windy outside, over 10 to 15 mile per hour gusts of wind, I will also refrain from turning on my console. I know that this is beyond weird, but I've had a history of bad luck with consoles. Went through 3 PS2s, 2 PS3s, and while I still have my original base PS4, I've had to replace the power supply, and just last week, I had to go into safe mode. All in all, share any weird habits you have, and thank you very much for the podcast. You have no idea how much it helps. Stay safe, Adam. So first of all, Adam, you do have some weird things going on there.
Yeah, that's weird.
The wind thing. I don't understand that.
I think he's saying that like he's had like he doesn't want like any kind of power or surges to happen that might break his console. I get it. I think he's scared. He's had so many broken consoles. He's like, I can't trust the weather.
Yeah. Fair.
Lightning may strike, blow up my PlayStation, whatever.
Is it just the sound of like wind blowing too hard outside that is distracting?
I don't know.
We need follow up on this.
Yeah, let us know, Adam. We'd like to know the reason for the no power. It's very interesting. I do think I will say this. I've lived in places where I felt like the power wasn't very good, very clean, like in an older house where it was like kind of like felt like it was very surgy. Surge protector obviously is like one of those things you can get that can kind of help kind of smooth those things over. But there's even some things that you can get that are like larger scale that'll help kind of clean up your power a little bit. If that is a big concern, they're not exactly cheap. but they are options to make your power a little bit better, a little bit more consistent.
Definitely.
Because it can happen. He's not wrong. But I mean, like, not playing games back to back, that's crazy talk. We play games every day. At least I do.
Well, everyone's got their thing, right?
Everyone's got their thing. But do you guys have any weird rituals yourself when you play games?
I have a weird ritual with my dogs when I play games. That's like, I mean, like on the couch behind me there, they have very specific ways that they like me to sit. Like you have to sit with your legs outstretched on the sort of like L of the couch. They want a blanket over your legs. So then one of them sort of lays down parallel. Then you put a blanket over that dog, and the other one lays horizontally closer, like up on my belly. Sort of we call it double dogging it here in the house. So you double dog with a very specific arrangement of dogs and blankets, and then once that's all set, then I can start, like, then I play the game. That's sort of the comfy position. But there are horrible times when I've like forgotten that I plugged my controller into charge or something, and it's way over by the TV, and then I have to undo the whole process. It's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare. So have you ever not set it up and had the dogs come up and they look you in the face and they're like, how could you do this to me? Why are we not double dogging it right now?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They will come and like put their paws on me and give me that look like, or they'll like paw at my legs. Yeah.
That's a ritual. That's a ritual. Anybody else? Alex?
Not to that level. I get my recliner in the back there at a certain spot. I get a LaCroix or a beer depending on the day. But no, nothing. No dogs. No double dogging it. No wind advisories on my end, unfortunately.
You don't have like a ritual that's like, I lost to that boss for the last hour. It's beer time. This is the victory beer. This is what gets me through. You don't have anything like that?
No, but I should adopt that. I think that's a good idea.
You should. Yeah. Good idea.
The victory beer. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
How about you, Dan?
I have a thing that I do for like for Souls likes when I'm reviewing specifically. So these are like, so what I'll do is generally I have a policy of dark to dark. So I like to wake up extremely early when it's still dark out, and I won't stop playing until it's dark out again. And under that, during that time, I like to have ice. There's got to be a large jar of ice. Okay. I'll take that like from the freezer. I'll just take out a big thing of ice, and I'll keep putting ice into my glass. The glass will contain generally an energy drink of some kind that I take very sparingly. Okay, so it's been Bang lately. I don't know if you've heard of Bang, but I like the crispy apple Bang. Okay,
sounds healthy.
It's not healthy, but so that's the thing. It's only half of the drinks. The other drink will generally be water. It's going to be sparkling water or a Zevia, which is a stevia-based soda, sugar-free.
Yeah.
So I'll take from both of those and just sort of pour ice in both glasses and drink from those separately throughout the day. I'll also put something in the Instapot early in the day so that around 8 hours later, I'll have like chicken and broccoli that's been simmering all day, right? And that'll be the one break time for food.
You have got some serious planning in this.
There can be more. There can be more. It depends if it's one of those days where I reach a boss where I'm like, I need to take a break. Then maybe I'll make something else too, or take a 30-minute nap. I find a 30-minute nap like it tricks the body into resetting. I get that experience where it's like if I had a night of sleep and I approach the boss again. So if I can like trick my body into being okay, you just woke up, go take the boss on again, fresh.
Oh yeah.
Get that kind of to simulate that experience.
I'd like to point out we made fun of our friend Adam here. That's crazy town. If you're forcing yourself to take 30-minute naps to trick your body.
Well, it's having a jar of ice with two different drinks that you are. Yeah, that's
right. Hey, we're talking about rituals here.
I'm just saying that, like, you said nothing too weird, and it's like that's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I've got it down to a science. Okay, this is the kind of.
In Dan's defense too, I should say when he is playing these games for review for us, it's usually over a very compressed time frame.
Yeah, it is.
So that is an approach that is geared towards optimizing time.
Correct.
To get through a game in a weekend or something.
Right, to get through in a weekend without being rushed. Right, I want to make sure that I'm not like having to like have too much pressure about it, but I'm putting a lot of time in a very short period. Hence, I want to keep hydrated.
Yeah.
I want to have my like food on a timer, and I want to keep the dark to dark rule going.
Yeah.
So this is yeah. I think that's everything.
Also, I'd like to point out someone who says, I don't have too many rituals, from someone who wears a jacket to every podcast, has hats as selection for when he streams. You have a lot of video game rituals. I just want to say that, Dan. Just want to point that out.
You know, that's fair. I just never think of them as rituals, right? More just like fun stuff that we do.
Okay. Yeah. So for myself, I don't really have too many rituals other than like I like to have like my favorite thing on a weekend is I wake up Saturday morning and I'm like, coffee and gaming is just one of the highlights of my week. Like being just that early morning coffee with games is just it's my jam, man. That is my ritual. That is the moment of zen I get every week. Sometimes I like to have the water too, but plopping down at my PC with the thing is, here's the part of the ritual that stinks, is I do this thing where I'm like drinking my coffee. I'm like, it's empty. Oh my God, it's empty. It's empty. And I'm playing and I'm like, I don't want to quit playing to go make more coffee. It's just a horrible moment. It's when the ritual really all falls apart. But until that point, it's amazing. I love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you for the question, Adam. Great question. This is a good one. Hello, GI crew. First time contacting you, and I was wondering, during this quarantine, if you could wipe the memory of any storyline from your memory and grind through a game you love for the first time, air quotes, what would you choose? Two of my picks would be Red Dead Redemption 2 and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Both those games had worlds and storylines I fell in love with, and although I still play them, it would be amazing to make it feel like day one all over again. Thanks and stay safe, Chuck from Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you, Chuck. So, wow, that is kind of, I've had this question. It's a great question because I've had that like, man, if I could play this game again, like it was the first time, which we could be queuing feels like a first time right now, as well as another like music cue. But what do you guys have? Dan?
Sure. So I get to pick two, yeah?
Yeah, you get to pick two.
So for the quick one, we'll do Bloodborne. I'd love to have that experience again, blind. And for the ultimate isolation pick, World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. So do you a classic or Burning Crusade? Like you want day one first World of Warcraft?
Day one classic. Let's do it. Man, that's. I'll see you at the isolation will end, and I'll still haven't moved. All right, I'll still be here.
That's basically just what you're talking about is like a server reset or an account deletion, right?
But it would be a complete like I had never played it before. No one had played it before.
I get it. So just starting the experience anew.
But with everybody would be starting
knowing what's coming. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's big because like I didn't want to play classic because I'm like I already played classic. I'm playing the game as it is now. I was kind of a retail bobo whatever kind of thing. So like. But to go back and not know where the game was going and have that very first day where you like walk out and you're like, what is this? Would be pretty amazing. Great choice, Dan, I think. Because it's not WoW Classic. It's just World of Warcraft.
Right, it's not WoW Classic. It's WoW
15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe.
Yeah, my two, I think I almost have to do puzzle games for them because like those are the things that I think are the most hurt on replay. Because if you know solutions, it's easier for me to play a game with a story or experience that I like a second time and still like reconnect with. But it's to do for puzzles. So I think for me it would be Braid and Portal.
Nice.
Good choices. Yeah. No, great choices. Really, really thoughtful. How about you, Alex?
I would want to go back to the two games that I had the most emotional, visceral reaction to. BioShock 1, re-experiencing the twist in that game. And just having that fresh again, I still think it's one of the best twists in games. And then Mass Effect 2, getting to redevelop those relationships with the characters that I love so much in that game, with how that all culminated. I would love to go back and, be with just all those characters again and just have that hype of what's coming next too. I think those would be the ultimate flashback experiences for me.
Without actually knowing what's coming next.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because part of me wanted to say Infinite because Bioshock Infinite's twist is so good, but I was looking for a twist when I played Infinite because of Bioshock 1. So I think to go in fresh with 1 would be
I was thinking more in terms of Mass Effect, because I think for a lot of people, I'm not in the boat of people who did not like that ending.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people who did not like the ending, it might be harder to go back and replay 2
True.
when you if they know it's for them a disappointment.
Yeah, that's fair. But.
Yeah. I'm with you. I picked Bioshock. Not so much for the experience. That was one of those games that I couldn't believe I didn't see it coming. You know what I mean? Like I like when I played it that first time, I was like, how did I not see that? I think like I was lucky enough that no one spoiled Sixth Sense for me, and when it happened, you were like, it all adds up. How did I not know? You know what I mean? And I had that sense with Bioshock 1, and that was so fun. It just so rarely happens in games that you feel like you were tricked, like at that level. And I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I wasn't sure if anyone was gonna mention it, so I was glad you did. And then the problem with my next choice is I have to forget all games. I can't forget just 2 games. I can't just start playing this weekend because I'd hate it if I did that. Now it'd be EverQuest. But if I could forget all the things that have gotten better, good graphics, good sound, things that are good for the player. I mean, I would have to forget it all. It would literally, I'd have to be bonked on the head, like 51st State style, and be like, oh, look at this EverQuest game. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But EverQuest for me would be, if I could, because it was the first one to show me what an MMO could be and how players could interact. It mattered so much to me in that regard. That if I could forget it all, which I know is not the question, but that's what I'm doing. If I can forget it all and go back and just not know where games were going, that would be an experience I'd want to have again in this corner.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
It is.
It's interesting. I'd love to know what other people think, because I can think of a lot of games I'd love to relive. By the way, just not to beleaguer the point, but playing Metroid again for the first time, playing Super Metroid for the first. I mean, so many of those games are so great. The first time I played the first Zelda, I know I'm totally cheating, but there's just so many games that would be so great to be able to have that first time feeling. That you could pick a lot of games. I will even say recently, I know Joe, you mentioned it. I'm going to bring it up here in a little bit as just some modern context. I really loved Ori and the Will of the Wisps this year. And I know I saw you the other day, you're like, I totally forgot I haven't started yet. And you were going to start it. I still have the icon on my desktop. And I seriously, during this quarantine, a couple times I've gone and put my cursor over the top of it and go I want it to be the first time again. So that's why this question is really good. I was like, I want to play Will of the Wisp again right now, but I need it to be fresh and a restart because I had so much fun, and it's been the highlight thus far of the quarantine for me has been playing Will of the Wisp. It's so good, so good. So I look forward to your playthrough of that. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. So it's come up in other conversations. So we had more questions. I did kind of cut it down a little bit. So thank you with your feedback. And like I said, we got lots of great feedback on skill-based matchmaking that I thought a lot of people had a lot of interesting things to say, and it was incredibly insightful. But we have a lot of games this week, and so I kind of wanted to get onto that. So let's go into GI Town. So this one is good. This one is very good. Dear McNamara and the Andes. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. The development of GI Town sounds as though it's coming along swimmingly. It is. Thank you. It's gone from sounding like a less than flattering digestion joke to being a living and breathing place, full of heroes and villains working together for the greater good. However, there's one thing that's bugging me. I don't think I could ever live in a place that doesn't have a Game Informer show equivalent. This would be a deal breaker. How can we make this work? If you guys had an adjacent show operating in GI Town made up entirely of video game characters, who would you choose to fill your roles? So, GI Town needs a GI show made by citizens of the GI town. I love this meta. I said meta as you don't want to at that point, but it is very meta, and I love it. So we need to find out who runs the Game Informer show in Game Informer town. All right.
Okay.
Who do we think runs the Game Informer show in Game Informer town?
It's like who we choose to replace ourselves on this particular episode of the show.
I think that was brought up. If you'd like to say that that's the role you'd like to do, or if you just think that they would be, I think you could also choose, because I don't know if I could pick. It would be very difficult for me to say who would be me, but I like the idea of saying like, I'd listen to that show if these four idiots were on it, right? Kind of thing. So
exactly.
I think that's the spirit I take from it.
Andy, you'd be Dutch from Red Dead 2.
What?
I have a plan.
You're the man with the plan.
All right.
Tahiti.
Yeah.
and apparently I'm quite dangerous. I was unaware of this. All right, Dutch.
Dutch is, I don't want to replace anybody like character to character, but I think having a very interesting personality on the show would be interesting. So I'd like Andrew Ryan to be on the show as a regular.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. That'd be saucy.
It's kind of the Joe Juba.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, I said it. Thankfully, you don't have any golf clubs.
You would definitely. Yeah.
We don't allow those on the show premises.
You definitely need someone easy talking, who's charismatic. I think Nathan Drake would be a good addition. Not saying not saying I am Nathan Drake. Let's be clear. I think
he totally thinks he's Nathan Drake.
I think,
by the way, he totally thinks he's Nathan.
That's why he put his hair up like that today.
It is.
Yeah, I knew this was coming. Real talk. I think it's recency bias, but if I'm replacing myself, unfortunately, I think it's Wedge at this point. Big goofy idiot who has a heart of gold, may I say?
Yes, indeed.
And by the way, do you remember the character Badger from Breaking Bad?
Oh no. Yes.
Yeah.
What?
Badger from Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I know the character.
Yeah. That voice actor voices Wedge.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I was him, and I was like, no, this isn't gonna be fun.
No, I'm just saying Wedge in the game, he does Wedge's voice.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, now I hear that. Yeah.
You know what I think the show needs, I don't know if this is my personality, maybe, is there's like the group of people who all have like a good rapport with each other. And then there's the kind of the outlier that is just kind of there that no one particularly likes and everyone kind of makes fun of, but every now and then he comes in. I think it's Uncle from Red Dead 2, not to lean too hard into Red Dead here. But I think that we need Uncle to sort of be on the sidelines, to be the one that everyone can kind of make fun of.
Yeah.
And who can be an idiot, but you don't necessarily feel bad about it because he's repulsive.
Okay, but I mean, like, he was like drunk most of the time and screwed everything up over and over again, right?
Yeah. You need that to balance out, to be a foil for the people who have it together.
We're getting a whole show of Joe Jupas is what we're getting right here.
Okay, so
all right, I will write that down. All right, let's see. Do we have any other suggestions? I like Nathan Drake. Nathan Drake's a great addition. I think he'd be. I like the Scoundrels. They're a good person to have on a show.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else?
I'd like a punchy, bubbly, quirky personality, like my friend Bubsy.
Bubsy. Oh my God, Bubsy! Really, you went to Bubsy? You're just trying to be annoying?
I went to Bubsy. It'd be great, we'll get a good rapport going on there.
Dan, all right. I'm gonna lean into your game here because I think this is a game.
Sure.
I think this is a game you're playing.
Okay.
What does Bubsy bring of value? Because he doesn't bring anything of value. Spoiler alert.
He'd sit there and listen to the conversation. They'd get a heated argument between like Dutch and Andrew Ryan, and he'd just be like, more like a bridge too short. And he'd just have those punchy quips, and everyone would turn and be like, Bubsy. It'd just be a great show,
You have Uncle in the back just slobbering all over himself.
Oh wow! Oh,
I don't think people want to listen to this show.
I don't think you would want
I'd listen to this show.
What I think the show needs like we need a correspondent. So like Space Channel 5. I think she would be a good addition to the show. Just because like bring some music, some vibe. Yeah, I think that'd be a good addition to the show.
Here's another serious one. 3 Dog from Fallout 3. He was the guy who's like on the radio all the time. Mm-hmm. He's like legitimately, he's actually someone who's like, okay, he's got that good mix of like personality, information. You know, it's like I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty realistic. I mean, that's actually someone doing the job that we're asking them to do, not just like completely random video game character who just shoots people. Yeah.
Though it is hilarious that if you kill 3 Dog, he doesn't host the radio anymore, and his much like less skilled assistant does after. That's too bad.
That's great.
It is too bad. That is too bad. Like, should we have anyone else? We gotta have more. We have more ideas. I mean, right now, I will relive. We have Dutch, Red Dead. Yep. We have Andrew Ryan. Yep. We have Nathan Drake. We have Uncle. We have Bubsy, Ooh La La, and 3 Dog.
It's a good list so far. I'm trying to think of my classic entry that would drive Tack insane, but I don't have anything on
I'm sure you'll get
right
one
now. Yeah.
Besides, I put Bubsy up. It can't be. You know.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think you. Anyway, I hate to go back to BioShock, but maybe like for some color commentary, we can go for like Sander Cohen.
Oh,
I mean, he'd certainly spice things up.
Oh yeah, he would.
Yeah, I mean, are we making a murder show? Yeah,
we're making maybe that's a spin-off. Like we do our normal weekly show, and then if it's successful, we do the murder show on like Tuesdays.
Yeah. Like every episode is like, we'd like everybody to come down to the station. Don't worry, you'll be fine. So basically, we have the purge siren going on throughout the town. What about Laszlo? Speaking of people that actually do things like from Grand Theft Auto,
that's
like
good. That's good.
Yeah.
I like talking again, sort of recent, but I really like talking to Parvati in The Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's got a good voice too.
Yeah, I think that, and good voice. That's Ashley Birch, I think. Mm-hmm. But this would be Parvati, not Ashley Birch. But
yeah.
I mean, I think she's probably my favorite, like human that you talk to in that game. I think that she'd be a good personality to have on.
Yeah.
She would, especially if we have some of these more reprehensible characters on there.
Yeah, there's some real bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they do or say bad things, it would definitely get a rise out of her. And she could maybe talk some sense into them.
She'd be a good moral compass.
Yeah.
I like that.
I have to throw it out there because I always put it out there. Chewbacca would be a good addition to the show. I'd like to make sure. I think just it's kind of like like you're watching the late night TV show. There's always the person on the couch that laughs at all your jokes. Like you have Chewbacca kind of like do his moan, his growl, his comments at the end of everything you do. I think it'd be outstanding.
I think you'd get along great with Bubsy.
I think you know what? Chewbacca would kill Bubsy.
He would pull his arm out so quick.
He would be like they were playing space chess and it would be over so quick.
Yeah.
Oh, another animal host we could add to the list. Isabel from Animal Crossing is good at making announcements that are informative and adorable.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we have a number. This list got big pretty quickly, and unpredictable as well. So I'm gonna read what we have so far, which is Dutch, Andrew Ryan, Nathan Drake, Uncle, Bubsy, Ooh La La, 3 Dog, Sander Cohen, Laszlo, Parvati, Isabel. Now we have to pick. We can do 5, even though there's only 4 currently on the Game Informer show in its current incarnation.
One day, there used to be 5.
One day we'll be back to the norm and have 5 again. Yeah. But for now it's 4. But we're going to go ahead and go with 5. What I think, I actually think Dutch was one of the most interesting characters in games in a long time. You know what I mean? Like outside of the that you said you think I am Dutch. I don't know that I agree entirely with that. But he is listen, it's never boring with Dutch on the show. I tell you that. Like as far as a bad guy goes, kind of full of it. I like Dutch. I think I'd listen to a show with Dutch on it. Especially
if you've got those kinds of shows where it's like, hey, what everyone do on the weekend? Dutch is going to have some crazy answers to that question sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think so. I like him as he's the one that I would probably push as an early lead on that top 5 myself. Yeah. Anybody else have one they'd like to champion?
Andrew Ryan.
Like
I'd like, but Andrew Ryan just make things very interesting. He'll have a lot to say about a lot of topics.
Yeah, he's just such a bring down.
He's not even crazy like the other guys I suggest. He's just smart,
I mean, I kind of like, hey, let's make the Game Informer show really interesting. Let's get Ayn Rand to be on the show.
Not a video game character, but
Joe's thinking of what to respond.
No,
okay,
I guess my thing about him is he's a guy who just always has an agenda, right? He's that friend that won't shut up about the conspiracy theories all the time. It's like, look, let's talk about something besides conspiracy theories.
Yeah, because I think I agree with you. I think he's a great character. I just feel like he's very one-sided in his kind of one maniacal delivery of his vision.
Yeah. He's not,
right.
I do like
he's not someone that I want at the table.
I do like the voice contrast though of Nathan Drake being like, yeah, so how's your guys' weekend? It was all great. And he's like, I will tell you how my weekend was.
See, it's awesome.
All right. That's what Dan's championing. Joe, you got a favorite out of there?
I think I want to champion Isabel.
All right. Someone's been playing a lot of Animal Crossing lately. How about you, Alex?
I'm with Isabel. I'd say Nathan Drake just from a vocal perspective and from a charismatic perspective. I think he'd be a good fit. He'd be a good leader of that show.
I think Nathan Drake's a great choice. Yeah. I'm in on that.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 or 4 here if we include Andrew Ryan, which I don't know how I feel about the Andrew Ryan. I'll say this much: I like him.
Amazing.
You also said Bubsy would be amazing.
I do think that, but I'm not going to get greedy. If we can just get Andrew Ryan in there, that's fine. I'll let Bubsy.
I wasn't saying that. I was saying that you're at a deficit already by bringing up Bubsy. That any other thing you bring up is in question. Not that you know him.
He's not taking this game seriously.
Bubsy is unfairly maligned. Okay, Ooh. He's lived a hard life.
Okay,
he never gets the credit he deserves.
Bubsy or Gex?
I mean, in all seriousness, Bubsy.
In all seriousness, Bubsy. Okay.
I know. Hey, that's how I really feel.
That is how you really feel. I believe you. I just can't believe you.
I get it. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. What do you got?
I was gonna say I like Parvati. I think good voice, good moral character. She's interesting. I like Parvati.
Yeah, I like her too. I think she's a good choice. I'm down with that. We're not doing Bubsy.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's very fortunate. It's very, very, very fortunate.
So are we at 4 then?
We're at 5 if we include Andrew Ryan,
which we won't.
But I feel like 3 Dog or Laszlo with their skills would be a great addition as seasoned audio voices, DJs, etc. I feel like one of those 2 belongs on this list, right?
Yeah. Boy, it's tricky. I guess we need to know a little more about GI Town as a society, because if it's more like modern society, right, then it's Laszlo.
It's a video game land.
What if it's an underwater utopia?
The inhabitants are video game characters.
The fact that it's a video game themed world makes me think that it's probably more post-apocalyptic or at least semi-apocalyptic.
Well, what we've had so far has been pretty nice. Like we've got like a petting zoo that Chewie almost got into. We've got all. It's been pretty, except for the horror museum. It's been pretty standard society city, just with video game characters.
I'm just saying, Three Dogs' expertise is really dealing with this sort of post-civilization apocalypse.
So you're saying it doesn't apply?
So I think Laszlo is probably more to go with a civilization that is actually currently working.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm down with that choice. I also thought too, like there is the things where Andrew Ryan did those like kind of Half-Life, or even Dishonored had a bit of those, like where like the guy would come on in the dystopian future and do the like loudspeaker kind of like stuff that was always like really weird. I'll give you that. I did think about that. Yeah.
Can I have a late entry that might be the good one for the list.
All right, let's hear it.
The narrator from Bastion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I like it.
That's a good one.
Sort of I think that's an ideal option for the like, hey, for all you out there listening at home.
Here I am, Andrew Ryan.
I mean, it certainly makes us sound cooler than we are. Yeah. Right? Okay.
The dude has a knack for storytelling. I think it's a good fit.
All right. Well, then let's cut the list down from that then. So we've got Dutch. We've got, and we're gonna entertain him a little bit. We've got Andrew Ryan. We have Nathan Drake. We have Laszlo. We have Parvati. We have Isabel, and we have the narrator from Bastion. We need to remove 2 of these. 2 of these need to go.
Now, here's a question. With Isabel, is it a video podcast so we can put like English subtitles over her? Or does she speak English at this point?
In GI Town, we understand gibberish.
Okay.
Yeah, we understand it. It's just like, it makes perfect sense to us. That's why we can go to talk to a sim and be like, hey, what's up, sim? And you totally get it. Like, we understand. Okay. This show is literally gibberish. So if we, if we don't understand it, we're doomed. So that's where it's at. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, I vote, because I get to choose a little bit here. I would say the one I would remove first and foremost would be probably the narrator from Bastion. It's a cool voice, but I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me.
Fair enough. Okay.
That'd be my first to go. Right.
Then Andrew Ryan.
Then Andrew Ryan.
No.
Dan has championed that one for a long time.
I am Andrew Ryan, and this is my podcast. Come join me.
I realized what it is. He's the Alex Jones of GI Town.
Wow.
I think that's a little unfair. Okay.
If that's the kind of podcast you want to put together, maybe
there's but one voice on a multitude of voices on the podcast.
I think I have to kind of agree with the Andrew Ryan rule, because I think Dutch seems like a good guy. He's got problems, obviously, right? Like Dutch is the hidden evil, but Nathan Drake, Laszlo, Parvati, Isabel, they're all good people. I think we're good people here on the Game Informer show. I like the idea of us picking some good people. We got the one that's kind of the Joe Juba every once in a while. Not like a full-on evil overlord, mad genius kind of thing. Right? All right, that's it. I'm making the call. So we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're doing Dutch, Nathan Drake, Laszlo, Parvati, Isabel. It might be the best podcast ever made. Is what I'm saying. Like, if you could live in GI Town, wow.
Super boring. It's a bunch of goody two shoes talking about stars and mushrooms,
well, I'm just
clouds.
Saying, you're doing a great Andrew Ryan right now.
Yeah, you can just sit and read The Fountainhead instead of listening.
Maybe that could be a topic of discussion. Who knows?
All right. That was fun. So Kiss, Marry, Kill. The game, if you're not familiar, basically we choose 3 games, or in this case, this week we have an interesting twist on it. But basically, it's that marry means you love that franchise so much that you want it to be like, you want to spend all your money on it as a publisher and make huge, giant AAA games and do whatever you want to dream with it. The Kiss is like, man, I love that. I'm not going to spend all my money on it, but I mean, maybe make an indie game that's pretty cool, and I'm going to try some different things, experiment with it. It's the Kiss. The Kill is, as it says, it is, I'm going to kill that franchise. That franchise is done. It is gone. Goodbye. So we have some choices this week and some good ones. So, hey, GI crew, this is Adam C. from Tallahassee, Florida. I really enjoy the Kiss, Marry, Kill segment, and here's my suggestions this week, all based on Blizzard Activision properties.
Uh-oh.
We knew this one was coming.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we knew this one was coming. Number one, first one, Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft. Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Well, I think Blizzard already made this decision. But
let's let Dan go last because I think that'll be the most the best way to do this. So Joe Juba, Warcraft, Diablo, StarCraft, Kiss, Marry, Kill.
Does Warcraft include World of Warcraft, or is it the RTS games?
I believe we are talking about the RTS games, or maybe the whole franchise as a whole. What do you guys think?
I think we include the whole franchise here.
The whole franchise? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We can follow. He's the PC editor. We'll follow his lead.
All right. I guess I'd say Marry Diablo, because that kind of game, that like action RPG, is just never not fun for me.
It is. Yeah, it's great.
And then I'd kiss StarCraft, because even though I don't necessarily want more of their like my time with StarCraft as an RTS, I feel like is over. You know, like it.
Yeah.
I respect what they've done, but I'm just not super interested in that. But there's some cool characters and world things that I think it could do. There's some opportunity there.
Yeah, you'd make a different kind of game, but you like the StarCraft universe.
Yeah. And then, so I guess that leaves me to kill Warcraft as an MMO and an RTS. It is, it's just over.
Oh no!
All right,
Warcraft. I had fun playing WoW for a while, but you're over.
All right, Joe.
You guys okay up there? You good?
Yeah. Thank you for the segment, Andrew Ryan. Alex, what do you think?
I'd marry the crap out of Diablo. I love those
Marry
games.
the crap out of it.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Like we would be so happy together, have a bunch of demon babies. It'd be great. I would kiss Warcraft because I would want to see them. I like World of Warcraft a lot. See what they could do in that space one more time, and then I have no love for RTSs and I'm bad at them, so I would send StarCraft on its merry way.
Yeah, it's a fair choice. Yeah. Dan,
this might surprise people. Marry Diablo. I think at this point I'm more about Diablo than my Kiss, which is still amazing. Warcraft, StarCraft. Well, we've had a good run.
Yeah,
StarCraft.
I'm actually shocked that you picked Diablo over Warcraft.
I am too, actually. But when I thought about it, I was like, right now, that's how I feel.
Yeah. Hype level in this panel for Diablo, the upcoming Diablo, it's through the roof, right? We're all pretty,
Hype level very high, but when are we going to see it?
I was going to say, as hyped as we can get about a game that may be years out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But I'm glad it's coming. Glad we know it's coming. I would marry Warcraft in an instant. Diablo's the kiss. I love Diablo. And StarCraft, I think Dan was right. I didn't even have to make that decision. Blizzard made it for me. It's totally true. It's totally true. Okay, next one. This one is Activision properties. Overwatch, Call of Duty, Hearthstone. So I know that's a little Blizzard back in there. I get it. I understand.
Two of them are Blizzard.
I know.
I know what this one was set up for. They just want me.
I know. That's why this game is fun. That's why this game is fun. All right, so let's hold out on Dan again, because this is really good to get Dan with.
This one sucks.
So Joe Juba, let's start with you again.
Yeah. Okay. I would kill Hearthstone, kill Overwatch.
Jesus.
And what was the other one?
Can you
Call
do that?
of Duty.
And kill Call of Duty also.
Just kill them all. Just wow, all out and just gone. Wow, that is the first time. By the way, I can't believe that's the first time someone's come up with that answer. But I'm not shocked that it came from Joe Juba.
Andrew Ryan.
Andrew Ryan. All right, so let's move on from the killer. What do you think, Alex?
Oh, I think I would marry Overwatch, and because I want to see, I'm excited to see what they can do with those characters now that they've established such a solid ground on who they are and what they can be.
Yeah.
And I would love to see, I'm excited for the story-based stuff that they're going to do with 2. I'm curious to see what else they can do with that license. Call of Duty, I'm kissing because I want them to do just one last platform that lives on, gives me all the good maps, keep adding to it, but live on as a platform. I think that's a good spot for that. And then I have the last card game I really loved was Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was a kid, so that's not a space that I dabble in. So I'm saying goodbye to Hearthstone.
All right, fair enough. All right, Dan, you're up.
All right. Yep. Marry Overwatch, kiss Hearthstone, and I guess I have to kill Call of Duty.
Wow,
Saved it earlier in the show.
I know, but it wasn't up against those two now, was it?
Oh, that's true.
Okay, all right. Overwatch, you marry Overwatch. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I like that was a tough one because I know you like Hearthstone a lot, and you like Call of Duty a lot. So
I was gonna end up killing something I love out of that one, no matter what.
Yeah. Apparently, this person knew you, and they went after you. Adam C from Tallahassee wanted to make Dan's life uncomfortable. For me, this is it's not that difficult, but it does seem a little weird. But I would pick Call of Duty as the marry. I would kiss Hearthstone because I just like playing a card game from every once in a while. I think they're a lot of fun. I think they're really challenging, really interesting. And I would kill Overwatch. I know that's the weird one. I really like Overwatch, but that's I think that's the order I go in. I think that's the order. That's what it says about me. But I'm no Andrew Ryan, Joe killing them all. So let's just put it in perspective.
I don't think you're allowed to do that. I don't think you can do that in this game.
Joe Juba kills us all.
Hey, yeah, I chose my own fate here.
Yes, you did.
You guys are slaves obeying the format. A slave obeys.
All right, this next series is this is just ridiculous. By the way, this gets really hard. So this is from Evan in Atlanta, Georgia, who sent these in, and they're basically looking at games that don't exist entirely. They're very forward thinking, but they're pretty challenging in this regard. And this is going to be tough. I'm just giving you a little heads up. But he starts off a little easy, which is like he says, indies. So indies, Outer Wilds versus Firewatch versus Inside. Outer Wilds, Firewatch, Inside, kiss, marry, kill.
Okay.
Dan, you're up. You're up.
Yeah, let's marry Inside, kiss Outer Wilds, and kill Firewatch.
Wow.
Pretty simple, cut and dry.
Yeah, you sound like Valve.
Ooh. That one's gonna hurt.
Wow.
That was savage. My lord. Wow. I don't know if I feel safe on this podcast anymore.
That was pretty rough.
Joe Juba.
Give them to me again. What
Outer Wilds, Firewatch, and Inside.
All right. This is kind of a weird one. I think I'd probably marry Firewatch.
Yeah.
Because even though that game, there was a lot I wanted from that game that I didn't do back when I played it. At the same time, the idea of building on what that was and getting a more refined version of that, I think.
It's almost like it was happening at one point.
Yeah, weird. Yeah. So I would want more of that.
Yeah.
Inside, I enjoyed, but I also kind of want Play Dead to do something different.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I feel I think they're clearly very skilled in that 2D puzzly atmospheric thing. But oh god, and the end of that game is so good too. But but also lightning can strike twice, so let's try something new with that.
Okay.
So then that means that leaves us with killing the
Outer Wilds.
Yeah. That was because I tried it and it just wasn't for me. And I know a lot of people love that game.
Yeah.
It just didn't click for me.
Yeah. Understood. Alex?
This is like, I feel like I'm answering more the question of what developer I want to see going forward. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Because like, I don't know that I need sequels to Firewatch or Inside. You know what I mean? I think those stories were fantastic in what they did. Firewatch, I agree, there's some parts I didn't love, but I think the writing in that game was really good. So I guess if I'm going from that perspective, I'd marry Inside, kiss Firewatch, and then kill Outer Wilds, because I'm with Joe. It didn't click with me the way it did for some people.
I think I feel like we're being unduly mean to Outer Wilds to some degree, but yeah, I probably kill Outer Wilds out of that. I really enjoyed Firewatch and I really enjoyed Inside, but I mean, like, I admire what Outer Wilds did. That's the hard part. I think you're right. If I pick developers, I would love to see what Outer Wilds did probably more than the other two next. But in this case, I'm just going with with experiences I had with the games. And so in that case, I have to go Inside was my favorite, with Firewatch being the kiss. So yeah, that's a tough one. I like those little indie ones, those gems. Those are like gems in our game history that are fun.
Yeah.
I feel like our office is a little interesting too, in that like there are so many people across the industry who loved the Outer Wilds, and I don't know if there's anyone at GI who it really resonated with. It's just sort of weird the way it pans out that way.
Yeah, it just happened. It's like
I mean, Reeves liked it, but I don't think it went like to the glowing level some people said it's like my favorite game of all time, and I was like, oh
yeah, and I've seen that sentiment out there from a lot of people, and I just like, it just wasn't for me.
I don't like space and ships. I'm bad at it, like flight and all this kind of thing. Like, it's just a thing. It's just my own thing. So next one. This one's basically impossible. It literally is impossible. Okay. Upcoming multi-platform games: Cyberpunk 2077, Diablo 4, Elder Scrolls 6.
You're right. It's basically impossible.
It's basically impossible. Yeah. I mean, by the way, this is just cruel, Evan. This is a cruel choice. This is Sophie's choice.
Well,
we're going to have to do it. Here it comes. I'm ready. Let's do it. It's time to just fight.
Okay, Dan seems, let's do it. Dan's ready.
Fight. Marry Diablo 4.
Okay.
Now here's where it gets tricky, right? Mm-hmm. Kiss Elder Scrolls, kill Cyberpunk.
I'm shutting the show down. It's done.
There it is.
Wow. I did not see that coming.
Somebody had to go.
Yeah, that's just, wow.
It's not going to be Elder Scrolls 6. It's sure as hell ain't going to be Diablo 4.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough. Joe Juba.
All right. I think I still have to keep with my previous enthusiasm and say I'd marry Diablo 4. Like, I just have so much fun with those games. Which I think would probably mean kissing Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Because I like that kind of, I like Cyberpunk fiction so much, and I like being able to be in a world to the way that game looks like it will allow. It's something I just can't say no to. So I guess that means sorry to Elder Scrolls, which remains one of my favorite series, but at the same time, also it's like, I feel like Skyrim, for me personally, like, is just one of my favorite games, period. That game, like Skyrim, is so good that I think there's part of me that is comfortable saying, thanks for all the fun, Elder Scrolls. You've given me one of the best games I've ever played. I guess we can call it good there.
As you smash in its skull with a shovel. Yeah, got it. Understood.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm burying it alive.
Oh, wow. No, that's okay.
That's
thank
worse.
you. Yeah, that is much worse. Alex.
Marry the crap out of Cyberpunk. I'm so in on that world and what it's creating. I'm totally in on that. I'd kiss Diablo, and I'd say goodbye to Elder Scrolls.
Oh, another one.
I have
when Elder Scrolls comes out, I'm bringing this video back. And
it's not going to let us play it.
Well, Dan, when you review Call of Duty, I'm going to bring this video back and say the franchise. So
I have my open world game in Cyberpunk. I like the aesthetic better of Cyberpunk than high fantasy. So
I am going to go a different route. Just because I've played previous entries in that series, I pick Elder Scrolls as my Mary because it's a safer bet for me because I know at least a little bit. I think what I'm getting into, right? Not that they can't screw it up. They could Elder Scrolls 76 it, I guess. But you know what I mean? Like I'm going to make some assumptions that it's going to be good, and I think Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be amazing, but we're not as close, right? Like we don't have the past. We don't have the history that I have with Elder Scrolls. So I just kiss Cyberpunk and I make the very hard choice. The very, very hard choice of I kill Diablo 4. It's just, I get it. It's insane. This is an impossible question. That's what I pick. That's why. So that's a tough one. We're all going to get clips of this thing later and we're going to hate it. This was a bad idea.
I'm already second guessing my options there, and it's like, well,
it's tough.
It's out there.
It's out there. It's out. I mean, the thing is, we should have. If you could cop out, you go like, I'm Joe Juba. I save them all. I marry them all. I marry everything.
It's funny that doesn't occur to me for the stuff I love.
Yeah, only for the things you want to kill.
I'm a jerk.
This one too is tough. This is another one. I mean,
there's more after we just slaughtered our favorite franchises. Okay,
dude, trust me. This is like, and please, anyone listening that making any of these games, these are very hard decisions, right? We're not like this is just tough. The Last of Us Part 2, Halo Infinite, Breath of the Wild 2, assuming there's a Breath of the Wild 2, assuming there's a Alex is just like he's done. I didn't do this. This is the readers. This is not me.
Oh, this community.
So there you go. These are tough. Last of Us Part 2, Halo Infinite, Breath of the Wild 2. Who wants to bite off that poison pill?
Let's go. Let's just get it over with. God, these suck. Marry Last of Us, kiss Breath of the Wild, kill Halo.
Wow.
There. You just got to make the choice and get it over with. Gotta make the choice.
It's hard.
Nothing pleasant about it.
I think it's interesting. I know you were a big fan of Breath, so picking Last of Us over Breath, I think that's an interesting. That's the insight there.
Do you know? I've never played Breath of the Wild, so
really. I thought you liked that game.
No, I've never played it. Still haven't played it.
I don't like Breath of the Wild. I don't love it like everyone else.
I'm just like I guess my logic is Halo. We are at a point where I could, if one of them has to go.
Yeah, right? I hear you.
That's going to be the one.
Joe Juba, do you kill them all?
No, not this time. I'll marry The Last of Us. I'm sort of ambivalent about the other two. So I'd say for the sake of my best friend Alex Stadnick, I will keep Halo around.
Yay!
Yeah, there we go. And Breath of the Wild is what you kill.
Sorry, Breath of the Wild. Which I mean, truthfully, I enjoyed Breath of the Wild, but I don't need I don't need more breaking weapons. That's enough.
Yeah, the breaking weapons is really annoying. Alex.
First off, I'd like to say if we weren't quarantined, I'd give you a big old hug. Oh man. So I would kiss Halo, keep it around, but it needs to prove itself. Like I'm so ready to be all in on it, but it needs to prove itself to me.
I like this, by the way. I want to hear a little bit more about this. So, as a longtime Halo fan, you still feel that they are under delivering on what Halo could and should be.
And I don't envy anyone at 343 because you're trying to build this legacy build on this legacy that was already set for you. And it was always there was always going to be people who said this wasn't good enough. You know, that's just, that's the culture, unfortunately. I think there's talented people out there, and I love, and I could be disappointed when we hear more about it, but I love the idea that they're saying, you know what, we're retconning, we're done trying to make the story we think you guys want, and I want to see what they can do with that property if they're allowed to be creative with it. And I know this maybe isn't a great apples to apples comparison, but like something like Gears of War is doing, I think it's an interesting juxtaposition because Gears has found a way to honor what came before it while establishing cool characters that I care about their story as well. So I want to see 343 do something like that. And on the multiplayer side, like I didn't hate Halo 5 by any stretch. Like I enjoyed it. It just there was something that felt different about it that didn't click with me. So, but I think I think they understand that at 343, and I think that's why we haven't seen it in 5 years when the last Halo came out, 2015, 2016. I could be wrong, but regardless, I think they know they have something to prove. So.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you for the clarification on that.
Yeah, the long clarification.
So who do you marry?
Yikes, I can't believe I'm saying this. Last of Us 2, I need to know how that story ends. In Breath of the Wild, I had an amazing experience with you to start. God bless you. You're great. I'm saying goodbye, though. And now I'm going to go cry in my bed back there.
Yeah, these are tough choices. I have a hard time with this one. I marry The Last of Us 2. You know, the thing is too that the delay earlier, I'm okay with game delays. I don't ever want to like be upset about a game delay, but I gotta tell you, I definitely was kind of like, I had May on my count. I was like, we're in quarantine. I'm really looking forward to this. And maybe that's the thing, that this game's going to be so heavy. I'm not going to want it to be during quarantine. So maybe they're doing me a favor, but I was a little disappointed, but definitely I think I marry The Last of Us Part 2. It's the game I'm most.
A lot of people are having to postpone their weddings because of the pandemic. So you and The Last of Us may just have to wait a little longer.
Yeah, let's talk about the important things. Yeah. Joe. Andrew Ryan. We already had Andrew Ryan show. And then I think Halo as a universe can be so much. Like I really do. I'm with you a little bit. I want them to lose the shackles of the past. Stop going like, well, we wrote these books and all these other like things, and you know, Master Chief has this helmet. He has to wear the helmet. If you take the helmet off, there's another helmet.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
At some point, yeah, Microsoft got this idea in the head that it had to have Chief to be good. But like, I think a lot of people would argue that Reach is one of the best stories in that Halo series, and that, you know, it had Chief like at the end. But like, if you put him as the guy in the chair and stopped with the Cortana stuff, I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that universe.
Yeah, and a lot of people really love ODST as well, which is like, you know, like is another one that kind of breaks the mold. I think break some molds. Let's break some molds, right? Like, I think that's what Halo needs to do. And so, Breath of the Wild, I get it. We're gonna get so much hate over this one, but that's the one. And for me, that happens. Because actually, I want Zelda to come back as a 2D game. Get over it. That's what I want.
Mic drop.
That's what I want. All right, he's got more, but we got to stop. We're just like, it's just getting depressing.
My heart's racing.
Like it's hard. Like these are hard. These are not good time quarantine questions. But I'm glad we conquered them. They were hard. We took them on, and we did it.
Yeah.
So this next one, these are interesting. He didn't choose games. This is here's Kiss, Marry, Kill with subgenres. The idea is the genre you kiss is limited to one series in a genre, and all of the other series are now gone. A genre you can marry flourishes, and there are plenty of games in that genre being developed. While a genre you kill no longer has any games being made, and all active games in that genre are now dead. So here are some groups to start. So what he's saying is putting 3 different types of games together, and you have to kiss, marry, kill those types of games.
Yo, these guys have gotten real mean about this.
I'm not looking forward to this question.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is very hard. So I'm going to start with what I think is the easiest one. Roguelikes, Dead Cells, Children of Morta, etc. Collectible card games, Hearthstone, Artifact, etc. Battle Royales, which I think I don't have to explain those. Of those three, what do you kiss, marry, kill? Dan.
Marry card games, kiss roguelikes, kill battle royales.
All right. I actually, that's what I thought you were going to say. Joe?
I think I'm just going to opt out of this one instead of saying kill all of them. I don't particularly love any of those, but I'm not going to inflict any violence on them for that reason.
Okay, all right. He passively objects.
There you go.
Alex?
Kill the card games, as we established earlier. Kiss Battle Royale, make the last perfect one that we'll ever need. And then marry roguelikes, which is not something I would have said even probably 6 to 8 months ago, but I think that allows you storytelling abilities and expanding on the world a little bit more than something like a BR.
Yeah. I think I just like the longevity of playing them. I think I probably go I like roguelikes, probably marry roguelikes, kiss Battle Royale, and probably kill collectible card games, because eventually I could just probably play them with cards. It's kind of cheating, but you know what I mean? Like I could play them as cards.
That is definitely like life hacking the question, but
I like it.
That's why I sit in this seat.
Yeah.
That's why I sit in this seat. So that's my take on that. So here we go. Next one. This one is this is the tough one. This is how we're gonna end it. Oh no, you know what? Actually, I think there's a different
this is the tough one.
No, okay.
What the hell have we been doing?
No,
Finally, a hard one.
No, actually, we have two more that we're gonna do. So the next one is turn-based RPGs, isometric CRPGs, or MMO RPGs.
All right, F this. I'm out of here.
So I love how upset this is making Dan. So Dan, do you kill turn-based RPGs? Do you
marry MMOs.
Okay.
Kiss turn-based RPGs and kill the CRPG.
Wow.
There's no good answer.
There's no good answer. There's no good answer. Joe, this one I kept on just for you because the RPGs, and I knew it would bother Dan.
Yeah. So we're gonna marry the turn-based RPGs.
Marry the turn-based.
Oh yeah. I want those to
Right.
flourish, man. More old school
Yeah.
Final Fantasies and things like that. I'm good with that. And then kiss the isometric RPGs.
Gotcha.
Though, man, we did just have Disco Elysium, so it's like maybe we already got the perfect one of those.
Yeah.
But maybe the next one's Disco Elysium 2. And then MMOs, they're done. They're over. No one gets to play MMOs anymore.
All right,
All
they're dead.
services are cut out. Part of that is like because of the term, like when you said they die, that means all active ones get shut down.
Yeah.
I kind of am interested in just the online meltdown when people are losing these hours and hours of effort that they've put into the games. So
That's so on. I mean, it's so Joe Juba. He's like, I want to see the pain. I get it, Andrew Ryan. You're great having you on the show.
It's not actual pain though.
Yes, it would be. It would be actual pain. You are right.
I'm
you know how
feeling real pain today.
the Reddit boards would be insane if they were like, well, they're gone. All your work forever gone. It would be insane. Like Elder Scrolls, WoW, EQ. I mean, it would be nuts.
Yeah, I'm just saying because I'm not super invested in any of those at the moment. I think that circus would be a little fun to watch.
See, that's the thing is, you could have just killed them and moved on, but instead you said, "Here is where I would find sweet joy in your pain. Here is where it is." That's the next level Joe Juba that happened.
It sounds evil when you put it that way.
Because it is. Because it is.
Pretty evil.
That is a total Joe Juba.
Man.
Oh my God. All right. Alex. Alex, what do you got?
Kill isometric, marry turn-based. I want to see what people can do in that space, in a modern space, and then make the one last great MMO to rule them all.
Okay.
Doesn't need to be Lord of the Rings, but it can be.
All right, gotcha. I marry MMOs because I think that I kiss isometric and I kill turn-based JRPGs. Bye. See ya. All right. This is how we're closing out the show. This is how we're doing it.
Let's do it.
This could be easy. This could be hard. I think this particularly could be hard on one member of this group. And
Haven't we been through enough today?
So, Metroidvanias, Hollow Knight, Ori, Metroid, Castlevania, etc. Souls-likes and Souls themselves. So, Neo, Bloodborne, Dark Souls. And finally, survival horror. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, any of the millions of great indie, Amnesia, things like that have come out that have been survival horror games. Just let's not forget all the great work that's gone on in the indie space of making some really outstanding survival horror stuff.
Yeah.
Those are your three choices. We're going to save Dan in this one. He's not allowed to go first. We're going to make him watch us go, and then we'll get to him. So, Alex, you're up.
Merry Metroidvanias. I love that genre so much right now. I think there's some of the best games out right now. Kill survival horror because I am a soft baby when it comes to horror. And then what was the other one?
Souls-likes.
I'd kiss that. I've always looked to try to be better at those and hasn't clicked quite yet, but this one would.
All right, gotcha. Joe.
Yeah, we're gonna kill the Souls-like games.
Nobody saw that coming.
Marry the Metroidvanias, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's an obvious choice.
That's one. Though it's also tricky to say because I liked the framing here when you say one. If you marry the genre, it's thriving. If you kiss it, you sort of get the one last perfect entry. Because it's hard to say that with survival horror also because that's another genre that, like Andy said, with so many cool indies trying experimental stuff. I would love to see a lot more of that. I think it's hard to say. It's hard to even imagine what the one perfect survival horror game could even be.
Yeah.
There's so many interpretations of that genre. But that's what I've got to go with because otherwise I don't get dozens of Metroidvanias. So
yeah, exactly. Which is what, So I'm going to answer mine before I let Dan answer, which I love that Dan looks like he's been in a bar fight today.
I have.
That it's just like we have ruined his day. So for me, I marry Metroidvanias, one of my favorite things ever. I kiss Souls-like and I kill survival horror. It's a pretty easy choice for me personally, but I didn't ask this question for my view. I asked this question for Dan's view. So Dan.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think everyone thought I was going to marry Souls-likes, and I am. This next part is trickier.
Yep, sure is.
I guess we kiss the Metroidvanias and kill survival horror.
Wow.
I know.
Okay, all right.
I'm very upset about it.
I know. I love that we've ruined your day. Really is truly great.
I'm the evil one.
Yeah, I know. But today it was like you should just see a screenshot of how miserable he is if you listen to just the podcast. Here at the end, he's miserable. We've really ruined Dan's day. So couple of comments as we end the show. We had someone reached out. Aaron Roberts sent me a thing on Twitter. He said that we should call the people that are part of the Game Informer community the Informed. Yeah, there you go. I thought that one. I don't know how we never thought of that one, but
Can workshop that one a little bit.
yeah, we can work with that. We can work with that one. And then another one was from Matt in New Jersey. Said we should call them the GI Crew, which
I feel like that's how we refer to ourselves.
I was going to say
it is.
Yeah,
it is. But let's be inclusive, right? Like be a part of the GI. Everyone's in the crew, right? Oh, the GI Crew. I like that one as well. So those are two great suggestions. We asked last week, by the way, if anyone's wondering if anybody had what we would call people that join, are part of the GI community. So I like both those. And if you have any other ideas, let me know. Podcast@GameInformer.com. Put them in the comments. Follow us. Smash that bell. Do a flip. Come back, do an Andrew Ryan impression, and let's go, baby. Let's go.
Yeah,
all right. So one last thing. This is to let you think. On the last pod, you were talking about nicknames for GI fans. We were the guy thinking of anagrams for Game Informer. He didn't actually send a nickname, but sent us anagrams for Game Informer. Here are his favorites. Former Enigma, Affirmer Gnome, Go firearm man, a grim foreman. There you go. That's a show, baby. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Love you guys. Bye.